DJ impression.
I'll give it my best. It's hard not to go into Partridge territory, but I'm gonna try not to. But anyway, on that note,
these are sex people.
Hello and welcome to this album with me, William Han. Normally, it's the podcast where each episode a guest and I would deep dive an album of their choice, but this is not an ordinary episode. Today, we are playing with the format. And today, I am joined by someone who is the kind of man I aspire to be like. He's not just a political activist that uses his platform and voice to advocate for what is right and just in this world. He's also an absolute wizard when it comes to six-stringed instruments and is the reason that all of your favourite bands sound so bloody good when they perform at venues across the planet. It's Mr. Tom Clues.
Hey, hello, Bill. Hello, Bill.
Hi, Tom.
That was a lovely introduction, and I just don't want to derail it, but just from the top, Free Palestine, and let's dedicate this episode to our brothers and sisters who are struggling.
Amen. Equal pay for women, Free Palestine, more dogs, more blacks, more Irish.
All of the above.
How are you, mate?
I'm very good, man. I've just come back from a lovely tour of Europe with the wonderful Sugababes.
Now, this is of interest. So these girls are from my neck of the woods.
Right.
So there is a long lineage of anecdotes at my school of big brothers that apparently snogged members of Sugababes. Apparently everyone did, but I don't believe any of it, Tom. But how was it?
Oh, it was really nice. It was lovely. I was reunited with a guitar player called Francois Fasano, and I was his first ever tech when he was a teenager, and that was lovely. I told my kid I was working for Sugababes, and she was like, "Don't know who that is." And she's got a little mate called Tom who's very openly gay and a brilliant kid, and he said, "Are they the round people?" But yeah, it was a good tour. It was a really good tour. Lovely people, great band.
Yeah.
It's funny you say the girls; they're women, really. You know?
I know. It's hard to imagine them as grown-up people, isn't it?
Yeah.
They were just pups when they started, but they're women.
They're women.
They're older than me,
and they're brilliant. You know, a couple of them are mums.
Yeah.
One of the kids was on the tour, which was really cool.
Great.
Just a really nice vibe.
Yeah.
Really friendly people.
Love it.
And it was great for them. It was their first ever arena show.
Amazing.
Tour,
very much deserved.
Yeah,
very much
legends.
deserved. How can you not like the Sugababes?
Yeah, exactly.
Mad. So jumping a little bit here, Tom. Why don't you tell the listeners what it is you do and who you are and what your vibe is?
Yeah,
please?
well, I'm a guitar tech / backline tech / stage manager. I've been doing it for 25 years.
Amazing.
With quite a lot of different bands.
Which we'll get into.
Yes. So I'm the guy that my mate was on tour with the Pretenders and heard someone in the crowd say, "Oh, ask the stage waiter." That's a roadie. So we're the people that set the gear up, and then we're at the side of the stage during the show to make sure things run smoothly.
I'm sure no one that does what you do has a sort of... There's no traditional route into it, right?
Not
so I'd be
really.
keen to know, Tom, what was your entrance into it all? By the way, cheers, by the way.
Yes, cheers.
Ting, ting.
Here we go.
Sarah, thank you much.
Lovely. Well, I moved to London in 97 from Devon with a band, and that all went tits up. Long stories, which I can't and won't go into.
Episode 2, I think, Tom will.
That's gangsters and guns and lots of like heavy shit. But yeah, so that stopped, and then I got a phone call from a guy who had played drums in that band for a while, saying, "Would you be up for going on tour with this band and doing the backline?" I'd never done it before, but when in my band, I was always the one that made sure our gear was packed down and in the corner before we got wasted, you know. So it kind of seemed like a logical progression, really. So I said, yeah, and then my first ever foray out of the UK was a trip to Paris with a band called Cousteau, who taught me so much, that band. My God.
When would that have been?
That was 2000. Yeah, just early 2000. I did my first trips to America with them. Liam, the singer, I don't really know what to say about that guy. He taught me to be a bloke.
Wow.
Absolute fucking legend.
Great.
In my life, and an incredible singer. And And songwriter was another guy, Davey Raymore, who is also a fucking legend. So yeah, that was me really. Came in 2000. I didn't really know what I was doing. Made it up. Was smoking and drinking all the time. But yeah, it was a really good apprenticeship, really. There was a time when we were in the States where I was the opening act, and I played for about 80% of the set with them. So with like a typical
earning your pay that day,
mate, and it was shit money as well.
Sure.
But it was a way to learn. So I was doing the merch, making sure that was all set up, and then counted in and counted out, doing the money. We'd have days like this in the States. I'd go to a college campus for college radio, set up everything. Band would arrive. I'd play, and I'd be playing like integral parts. I played acoustic guitar. And then they'd go off and do more press. I'd pack it all down, go to a gig, set it up, line check, sound check with them, then do my own sound check, then do like a half-hour set, and then change over, and then play with them, and then they'd go off and be showbiz, and I'd put everything away. So yeah, that was a day back in the noughties, very, very early noughties. And then I was with them for like 5 years. They split up, as bands often do. And didn't really know what to do then, so I sort of did a bit of high-end painting and decorating,
right,
which was interesting. Decorated Shakin' Stevens' house with Shaky.
Nice guy. What are his interior design choices like, Tom?
It was funny. I said, look, here's the different grades of sandpaper. We're going to hit the architraves. Okay, Tom, who's your favourite producer? It was mental. Played in some of my band.
Wow.
Okay, Tom, how come there's no guitar solos? Is that a good Welsh accent? I don't know.
I mean, I'll take it.
So anyway, Cousteau, incredible band.
How do you spell that, Tom? It's not a band I'm familiar with.
They're named after Jacques Cousteau, the underwater explorer. Cousteau.
Ah, okay. So I'm glad I asked.
We did actually meet Jacques Cousteau's grandson.
Wow.
And he came down to a gig in New York, and he was really friendly. And then suddenly they weren't very friendly, and the foundation came in and forced the band to change the name. So they operated under the name Moreau.
Cease and desist.
Yeah. Now they've reformed with Liam and Davey and various session guys. Cousteau with an X on the end, and there's a couple of songs. There's a song called "When the Bloom Has Left the Rose." Jesus Christ.
Good gear.
Oh, yeah, like heavenly.
Yeah.
I mean, I listen to Cousteau regularly.
Yeah.
For the tone of Liam's voice and the quality songwriting. You just can't get around it. So yeah, they had a big impact. Should I pick a song now?
Well, I think what we'll do, we'll sort of mention what we discussed beforehand. So normally we deep dive an album on this podcast. We talk about emotional attachments and, someone's...
Got plenty of them.
Yeah. A bit too emotional for my liking, Tom. But the idea was you gave me what I assumed to be a bit of a drunken voice note. And you said,
yes,
we need to make this happen,
right.
William.
Yeah.
I need to come on your podcast, or I need to run through all the mad shit that I've been up to in my life. And I was like, yes, you do. Yeah. Absolutely. So here we are. And basically, Tom shared his illustrious CV with me. And there is much to discuss. So I think the loose plan is, and it is a loose plan, Tom, we can take this anywhere.
Yeah, good.
We'll go through your CV, we'll pick a tune or two each, and we'll stick it on a playlist. But really, let's bloody see where this takes us.
Yeah, okay.
So let's just dive into you really, Tom, and, what came next in your life, I think, mate.
So after Cousteau, I did the painting and decorating, and I wasn't really... I was pretty lost. I was like, what the fuck
Been
am I
there,
doing?
brother.
Yeah. What the fuck am I doing? And then I was local crewing at the Astoria.
R.I.P.
And then I had an ex who was quite high up in management at King's College. And they had a lovely little venue. Did you ever go there? Upstairs.
You have to get the lift upstairs, didn't you?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I saw... Who did I see there? I saw the Vaccines there quite early on, and I saw the Holloways because... Okay. Well, they were supporting Towers of London.
Right, okay.
And we left before Towers of London. But here's the thing, Tom. As mentioned, you have to get a lift up.
Yeah.
So we was getting the lift down. Who comes out the lift? Towers of London.
Oh, my God.
Where the fuck are you going? The show's about to start, you dickheads.
My mate slapped one of them once.
I'm not surprised in the slightest to hear that, Tom. We could be here all day discussing Towers of London, couldn't we?
But that venue, I ended up getting a job because it was all students were working at the gigs, and then they had like professional audio come in, And one of the students had smashed a flight case into the side of a tour bus, and they decided they should have someone oversee it, which is great for me because then I could not have to be on the road.
Sure.
You know?
Proper, actual, reliable work,
yeah,
right?
so it turned into a stage managing job, really. And then from that, this is how I got back into being a roadie. So I was there, and the Rakes were playing, and they had a tech at the time who was a brilliant tech, but also loved a little bit of a party. So I didn't want to be hanging around, so I just packed all their gear down. And he came up, and he was like, "Oh shit, it's all put away." I said, "Yeah, I've been a roadie, so it's fine, you know." And then I asked them which way they were going. They were going near Old Street, and I said, "Oh, could I get a lift? I'll help you load the gear in." I got a phone call the next day. "Hi, is that Tom?" "Yeah, hi, my name's Nick. I'm Kim Wilde's manager." And that was it. I was back in. So I was doing Kim Wilde, which was mental.
Tell me more. So, Kim, what was the vibe?
First gig was in an ice skating arena in...
This is why I asked these questions.
I want to say it's
Brilliant,
like fucking Croatia or somewhere like that.
Hell.
It was
amazing.
somewhere in Eastern Europe anyway. And met her. I mean, I had a massive crush on Kim when I was a kid.
Sure.
You know, Jesus. So that was quite exciting to be at the airport with Kim Wilde. And then I went into the dressing room where all the drinks were to put the waters on stage, one of our duties as roadies. So I knocked. Kim was like, "Oh, come in." And she was wearing a basque, and it had this like little metal attachment in sort of right in the middle of the cleavage, like it was like a flower shape or something.
Right.
And she said, "Oh, Tom, have you got anything that could cut this off? I don't want to have this here. I just want it to be like a regular basque." I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll let me go and get my tools." So anyway, I went off and grabbed a Leatherman, and I came back. Come in. She was still wearing the basque, and I said, "Kim, do you want me to pop out? You put a t-shirt on and I'll cut the thing." And she was like, "Oh no, you can just cut it here." And I was like, "Okay, probably going to touch your tits." And she said, "Yeah, well, it's your first day, isn't it? So it's here's you getting to know us." And
Kim sounds like a laugh, Tom.
And I said to her, if my 15-year-old self could see me now. And yeah, she was a really good laugh. Well, I had a lot of laughs with Kim. She had us up to her house for Christmas drinks. Carol Decker opened the door.
It's a good night out at Kim's by the sound of it. And to keep things on track in terms of format, Tom, what song are we picking by Kim Wilde?
Well, can we do a Cousteau song first?
I insist, of course.
Heavy Weather.
Heavy
Jesus
Weather
Christ.
by Cousteau.
Ridiculous song.
I look forward to listening to that
song.
on the way home, 3 or 4 pints.
And then
deep.
Kim I was thinking about this. Water on Glass is a great tune, but I think I'm going Route 1.
Kids in America.
It's got to be, you know.
I did notice something though. I did listen to her second most played song on Apple Music yesterday.
Keep Me Hanging On.
Keep Me Hanging On. And I realised it's this Bombay Bicycle Club sampled that. I think it's Luna, one of their songs. But yeah.
She was Britain's first female to have a number 1 in the Billboard in the States.
Shout out to Kim with Kids in America.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. It was Keep Me Hanging On.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Her brother wrote that song, Kids in America, when he was 17 on a Wasp keyboard. Their dad their dad was a rock and roller.
I didn't know.
Marty Wilde. He was like around the time of Cliff Richard and all the sort of clean-cut rock and rollers, he was a bit of a wild guy, Clues in the name.
And yours name as well.
Yes, Kids in America. She wrote that. Her dad had some spare studio time and said, "Oh, kids, why don't you go in and Rick wrote that, which is wild."
So it takes sometimes, isn't it? Bit of magic, 15 minutes, and
absolutely,
you can change lives.
Absolutely. And then from that, I ended up sort of drifting loosely into the sort of 80s revival world. So I did Kajagoogoo's first ever comeback with the 4 of them, which was mental. Like the tension and, because they'd had really bad vibes for years. So that was pretty cool. Doing that. I did a Howard Jones gig, but it never happened. The hired keyboard, the screen was cracked.
As in the weed smoking Howard Jones?
No,
Mr.
that's
Nice.
Howard Marks.
Howard Marks, sorry, I'm getting my Howards mixed up, forgive me.
God, we could go on forever because I've got a lovely story about him. His daughter moved into 2 of my old flats.
The double?
Yeah.
They said it couldn't be done, Tom.
Isn't that weird? Anyway, Howard Jones, that gig didn't happen and I got paid. That was good. And then, I'm trying to think what happened after that.
Well, I know we've got next on the list. Shall we talk Art Brut?
Art Brut, yeah.
Or are we jumping too far ahead here, Tom?
No, actually, yeah, so around this time it was Art Brut, Infadels and the Rakes.
Now, you did tell me to remind you about an Infadels anecdote, so I'm ready when you are for your Infadels anecdote, Tom. I think it may involve Glastonbury. Maybe I'm wrong.
Jesus.
We can come back to that.
I should have put that down on my notes, Bill.
We can come back to that. Talk to me about Art Brut, Tom.
Art Brut, what a team.
What a band.
Top of the pops.
Top of the fucking pops.
Eddie is just such a lovely guy. I was doing a gig with Suede a few years ago in Berlin, and I did the changeover and then sat in my guitar world as the tension builds. And I got a text off Eddie. Hey, hello, mate. Let me know if you're in Berlin anytime. Be lovely to see you. I thought,
that happens.
That's a bit fucking weird. Gig finished, and I go to sort of, turn everything off. And, Tom! It was Eddie. He'd seen someone that he reminded him of me, but it was actually me. And that was lovely.
That's great.
But yeah, I did quite a lot with Art Brut. Really enjoyed it. Raucous, I think.
I think that's probably quite fair.
A raucous time.
Would it be fair, a good time to share my Eddie Argos Art Brut anecdote?
Please do.
I've told you this one before, I don't know if you remember this. So anyone that's been following my illustrious career for long knows that I worked at Heathrow Airport for a decade.
That's where we met.
That's where we met, Tom. And one time I was on the way to work on the Heathrow Express, 15-minute journey into London, from London into the airport. It's been a while, you can tell, can't you? Mm. And Eddie Argos sat in front of me.
Wow.
So I had cans on, listening to a podcast or music, whatever, and I've gone, fucking hell, Eddie Argos. I thought, I wonder what he's up to nowadays. And rather than say, hello, Eddie, big fan of yours, love your music, I've just opened Twitter, had a little scroll through, looks like he's in Berlin nowadays. Okay, it's cool. And I thought nothing of it. I just clicked follow, stuck my phone in my pocket, and thought, I can't bother to say hello to that, actually. Normally I would. I'm a very forthcoming, chatty kind of guy, obviously. Yeah. And he's gone into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and one can only assume, open Twitter and seen new follower. Clicked on it, and at the time, my profile on Twitter was William Han, a pest to all celebrities travelling through Heathrow. And he's looking at his phone. He's looking at me. He's looking at his phone. He's looking at me going, that's the fucking... What the fuck? Like, It was very, very odd 15 minutes of me.
Did you have a chat?
No, I didn't.
No.
I don't know why. I think once I realised what I'd done, I thought this is too awkward now. And I just sort of do my way out of it.
He's a lovely guy.
I'm sure he is. Yeah.
I feel like I saved his life once. We were doing Godiva Fest in Coventry, which is a free festival.
Sounds Polish.
Yeah. No, lady, like Lady Godiva. The nude on a horse. And it was the year that The Enemy were breaking.
2008, I'm reckoning them.
And they're a Coventry band.
Sure, yeah.
And it was free to get in. So everyone turned up. Art Brut were on before them. And
I imagine the crossover in fan base.
It was dangerous.
Yeah.
I went to the dressing room and I said, Eddie, don't go into the crowd today. I've just been dodging full cans of beans. They were just throwing everything at the stage while I was setting up. Half cans of beer, fucking shoes. And I went to of course, Eddie had had a good drink by then. So he did jump into the crowd, and he ended up with the mic cable wrapped around his neck, and he was off the ground.
Fucking hell.
He was starting to turn blue. And, I'm quite strong, but, Eddie's a tall guy and bigger than me. But I somehow managed to get under him and hold his weight and disentangle the thing. It was savage.
So this is going into like the real nuts and bolts of what a guitar tech does. You are not back a stage. You've got 1,001 things to do at any given moment of the day, haven't you?
I've done shoelaces. I've done sunglasses, mid-gig. Oh, my glasses.
Pulled things out of orifices.
I did have a bucket for people to vomit and piss into.
Tours can be brutal, man.
Yep, absolutely.
So, Art Brut, what we putting on the playlist, Tom?
Oh, Axl Rose.
Axl Rose.
Yeah, such a great tune.
I'm going to go with Route 1 again, I'm afraid. It's Formed a Band.
Formed a Band. Look at us.
We formed a band. It's still so fucking fun, that song. Big, loud guitars. Yeah, we love it.
Beautiful, man. Do you ever see the thing that Eddie used to do at the end of a gig?
I don't think I've seen Art Brut before,
If they're in London at any point, go. They're operating again, and Jasper Future, I think, is back, which is hot news for me. I love Jasper. No, Eddie would go into the crowd at the end of a gig, and point to people and say, you, form a band.
Yeah, great.
Right, and they do like the slow breakdown, and Eddie would like pair up people in the audience. And
That's amazing.
Form a band. Well, we were doing a gig in Belgium, I think it was. I was with the Wombats, and Brut were playing upstairs. So we packed down really quickly and we went up, all of us, band and crew of Wombats, and got to that bit, and Eddie was pointing at people and he was going, you, form a band. And then he pointed at the 3 members of the Wombats and he went, you're already a band. It's just lovely.
What a front man. Love it.
Eddie Argos, yeah, shoes off and ready to go, what a hero.
The world needs more Eddies.
Yeah, no shit.
Up next, we got the Rakes.
Rakes, yeah.
A much maligned band, I think. I think they get a lot of shit, which I think is very undeserved.
Brilliant songwriting.
I think so.
Matthew, what's his last name? Swinnerton. Matthew Swinnerton, incredible. Like the parts that he.
Is he the guitarist?
With.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like the chief music writer, I think.
Yeah. Big riffs.
Yeah.
Tax that guitar, doesn't he?
Yeah, really good. Yeah. I did a tour. In fact, I did one of the last American tours I did with Cousteau. We had a tour manager called Graham Swinnerton. And he was Slade's original.
Right, sounded it from that impression.
He was an old guy. And it turned out that he was Matthew Swinnerton's uncle.
There's the lineage.
It's all there, Bill.
So I think their final album, Clang, is like an underappreciated masterpiece.
I've got to say, I don't know it.
Do you not?
No.
Honestly, it's fucking great. I remember one day in lockdown listening to it and texting like on one of the WhatsApp groups, my mates going, I think I might be the only person on the planet right now that is listening to the Rakes 2009 album, Clang. It's fucking class. It's really good.
Right.
But they didn't seem to think so, I guess. The band split up off the back of it.
Up, didn't they?
They did.
Violent. That's my tune.
How's that one go again, Tom? You're going to sing it for me a little bit
Because you're violent. Violent.
That's a good Rakes.
You're violent. Violent. All out for money. Yeah, fucking tune. Great tune.
Right.
Hints of kind of scar and yeah, really beautiful song.
Very Johnny Rotten in your version, may I say. You've got a bit of the Rottens about you, Tom.
I do. I tell you what's rotten.
Tell me.
I just nearly got a gig working with the Pistols.
Let's talk about this, please.
Didn't happen.
Fuck.
I'm in a group. There's on WhatsApp guitar text.
Sure.
And work gets offered up.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it because I've got Maccabees coming up.
Who?
And, the Maccabees.
Who? What? You're saying they've got shows this year, Tom?
Oh my God. The Great Return.
They said it would never happen.
I can't wait for it.
It's going to
be
class.
Wait. But yeah, gutted, absolutely gutted to not be available to do the Pistols.
So this leads on to another question I had for you, really, about like finding work and sort of making entrances into these worlds and how it comes about, really, Tom. Because it's such an odd, well, not an odd, but a very unique job you have. And I think most industries have this, where like it is a small world, be it guitar techs, accountants, solicitors, hoteliers like me. Yeah. It is a small world. You do know everyone, right? Is that fair
not
to say,
everyone, not everyone,
sure.
But you know lots of people, and obviously the more you do it, the more people you meet, and then you're like a walking CV, really.
Yeah.
You know, and you just pick work up and you cover for each other. I've just spent a day getting good cover for Sugababes because there's some shows I can't do because of the Maccabees, and so it's all about that interconnected little world. And sometimes there'll be a manager who's got a bunch of bands, and you'll end up moving through those. Sometimes it's a tour manager that'll take you along. Various different ways, really. But it just sort of work seems to just generate itself. There's the usual begging emails in January and February. Shit, I've got no money and no work.
Yeah. Well, that leads on quite nice with another question I was going to ask. If it's not too personal, Tom.
Go.
Looking at your CV, there's some bands here that are absolutely seismic and massive. And there's some that aren't.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they pay differently. And how do you sort of pick your battles, Tom?
Well, these days, it's not luck because you generate it, I suppose I've got enough names on the CV and I know enough people that it just sort of comes in. And so I've made rules to myself now. I don't do, like, I've got a set rate. I won't work won't work for less than that. Most people have got that as well. And I don't do half day travel days.
Yep.
Because my day is worth what it is, and that should. and that should stay. So I think the list, the CV, whatever you want to call it, I think it just reflects its smaller bands at the beginning, going into bigger things.
Sure. And with a band like the Maccabees, do you choose to stay loyal to them most because you like working with them, or
it's beyond that with the Maccabees?
Yeah,
their family, you know.
So how long you worked with them for?
Started in, I want to say it was the very end of 2009, beginning of 2010. It was just before Albertine was born, my daughter. And I can remember taking her in to Terminal Studios, the old one in Bermondsey, holding her up and going, look what I did, look what I did. And she ended up on their merch,
Oh, great. Didn't realise that.
Yeah, there's a T-shirt called the Chops T-shirt. That's her nickname. The super fans were all like, oh, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? Who is it? And one of them proudly declared, I know who it is. It's Jessie Ware. No.
Reddit forums arguing with each other.
But no, loyalty is a funny one because, it is a rare thing because ultimately it's business.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
But every now and then there'll be a group of people that you meet and it just works, They had me on stage in Manchester on my birthday, sang happy birthday, and then said that I'm more than a roadie, I'm a muse. And I just thought, fuck, yeah, I'll take it.
I bet you hated that, didn't you, getting dragged on stage?
No, it was so embarrassing, yeah.
God.
I'm shy.
So have you been involved in the rehearsals so far, Tom?
Done bits.
For the comeback of the year?
Yep, done bits. It's been great. It's an interesting atmosphere because there is I mean I can't speak for them at all, but there is a sort of trepidation, I think.
Sure.
It's been almost a decade, and it kind of came out of the blue. I don't think any of them were expecting it.
I certainly wasn't.
I know Hugo's talked about his wedding. They got up and did.
Did a few tunes, Pelican and.
I think it was Pelican. They did. And then they did Rolling in the Deep with Adele singing.
Who, sorry?
Rolling in the Deep.
Never heard of them.
That was mental.
That was a fun day on the internet. It really was.
In fact, me and Elliot, who is a previous guest
Former
of yours,
guest, friend of the pod.
Yeah, lovely Mr. Andrews. He PM'd the wedding and I SM'd the wedding. And it was great. It was a really good crack.
I bet.
It was heartbreaking to just see them play like one or two songs and then that was that. And it was like, oh, Jesus. It was hard. I found it really hard when they split up. I walked into to their old rehearsal space in Elephant, and the manager was there. And this is like third album, I think, that I'd done with them. And I just went, oh God, let me get out of here. So I put my tools down, and then Hugo texted me about half an hour later, and he said, "You still in Elephant?" I said, "Yeah." I told him the cafe I was in. He came up, he walked in, and I said, "Have you just split up?" And he said, "That is why I just said what I said." And I said, "Well, what did you just say?" So because of album options and promoters and fans and all of that, they decided that they were going to do the last campaign and then let it be known at some point, but no one was to know. No one. Just manager and band, and that was it. And so when that was declared, Hugo said, "Tom will sniff it. Tom will know." And so half an hour later...
Well, the brothers, you said, right? It's like family. You know when something's up with your family, don't you?
Exactly, in fact, did you get that book of...
I didn't actually, but my sister-in-law did.
So
I've read it. And your beautiful words in it, Tom,
Yeah,
actually.
well,
Remind me, what is it you said about families getting divorced, they still get back and fuck each other occasionally?
Yeah, that's loosely it, yeah. Which is funny, because Felix had texted me, it was like 11 o'clock at night, I was in someone else's bed with a bottle of rum and some marijuana.
Good night in, Tom.
And I wrote it there. Because I said, "Oh, when do you need it by?" And he was like, "Tomorrow." And that was fun, to have your say on them. But yeah, it's incredible. This could easily turn into a Maccabees podcast, but maybe,
you wouldn't find me begrudging that for 1 second.
Maybe we'll do another one.
But maybe we should talk about that a little bit more, though, because that's kind of how you and I became into each other's orbit.
Yeah,
really. I think we've not touched this properly yet. But go on,
I wonder, was that the first band? Because I swear I saw you up there with maybe Infadels.
So we discussed this on the phone a couple of months back, and we said we was going to do the podcast. You seem to think that we'd met at an Art Brut show. I don't think that's the case.
No.
I know the first time we properly shook hands, it was at Maccabees show. Is it Corsica? Is that what it's called in Elephant and Castle?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
So that was a weird little
Under
show.
the arches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a weird show. You had to sort of, it's like first come, first serve. Got announced on the day. I had to queue up for a couple of hours to get in. Really exciting, really fun show. It was quite an early start time, like 7 p.m. stage time. I was doing shift work at the time, so I was fucking delighted with that, Tom.
Right.
And it didn't lose any of the atmosphere for starting so early. It was such an electrifying show because everyone was just so happy to get through the door.
Yeah.
Anyway, after the show, you've seen me and you've gone, hey, like, I know you from the airport, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. He goes, mate, fucking, I've seen you enjoying the show. You're obviously a massive fan. You know, did you queue up for ages to get in? I said, you had to queue up for ages to get in. He goes, mate, those days are over. Take my phone number.
Yeah.
Give me a message on WhatsApp. Don't worry. Future Maccabee shows, I'll sort you out.
And I have, right?
Fucking hell, you deliver. Honestly, the entire last album campaign, really. There was a few times I didn't take the piss, like for London shows and stuff, where I just sort of, I brought a ticket, support the band.
Nice.
But there's quite a few away gigs. Like, I don't mind asking for guest list at a show like Bristol. I imagine the guest list isn't quite as busy as the London show.
Yeah.
Places like that, there's a good few shows, 3 or 4 at least, that I definitely took you up on. And I'm glad I did, because, you know, they're one of my favourite bands.
Yep.
Not knowingly, they of course split up. So I really got to squeeze the most out of that band possible.
Brilliant.
On what was, you know, the end.
Yeah.
So for that, Tom, I'm very grateful.
Well, it's lovely. It's why I'm sitting here. You know. I've got a lot of warmth towards you, Bill. I think you're a fucking...
Very sweet, Tom,
you're a really good human, you know, and it's... that's why we're here, isn't it? Right? Music and niceness,
and a bit of red wine.
Yeah, and a bit
fucking
of red
nice
wine.
one, Tom. Appreciate that.
We didn't do an Infadels song.
Hit me with one.
Free Things for Poor People.
Yes.
What a tune.
Yes.
What a tune.
Now, again, we discussed this the other day. They're actually not a band I'm too familiar with. Free Things for Poor People.
Oh, that was the anecdote. I just remembered.
He's got it.
Yep.
He's got it. We're back in the room. What you got, Tom?
I was doing a show with Emilie Sande, Hammersmith, Apollo, and the bass player was young. Really lovely guy, Levi Yard. Really, really great kid. I say kid, that sounds so patronising. But he was a teenager.
You can call him kid then.
So I can call him a kid, yeah. He's a man now. I saw him recently. Lovely guy. In fact, his brother plays keys in the Sugababes. It's all connected. Anyway, I got a phone call from the guitar player, Matt, from Infadels. Talk to me about Levi Yard. And I said...
Sounds like a threat when you say it like that.
Yeah, I said, well, why are you asking me? So Matt was his tutor. So it's like a 20-year gap between me being Matt's tech and then Matt's band splitting up and him going into academia. And he was head of music at Westminster, I think. Right. And Levi was doing his music degree and Matt was... And that made me feel like, oh, I've been doing this a while now then. You know, like a real...
Second generation.
Yeah, mental.
Mad.
Mental.
We've got a few more to put on the playlist here, Tom, before we go any further.
Yeah, come on.
Well, Maccabees, I guess.
Maccabees, I thought long and hard about this, you know. God. It has to be Silence. Has to be.
Well, I tell you what, it's actually quite fitting you choose that song, because as mentioned, one of the shows put in the guest list for was Bristol. Hugo performed that song that night. Didn't play it very early on when that album first came out. It took him a while into the album cycle to start playing it, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And the vulnerability that Hugo has to display on singing that song on stage every night. And when you bear in mind, he's not even the fucking front man. Yeah. Doing that at all takes some bottle. Yeah. But on a song like that, the courage it fucking takes to perform that song is unimaginable.
It's open heart surgery.
Massively. Now, I don't know if it's the same for every night, but that show in Bristol, after he finished, the applause went on.
You feel the audience holding him.
Honestly,
it was incredible.
Never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was really intense. I remember Brixton doing it there, and
I think it's the same thing. The album, the audience really hold the applause for ages after that song.
It was just. I don't want it to sound too overblown. It was a spiritual moment.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I grew up in church, and I've always said that rock and roll not killed because, you know, it's a bit too inflammatory, but usurped church. You know, so that we do have spiritual experiences. In fact, this links into the roadie thing. I was in a bar somewhere in Berlin once, get my chirps on with some ladies, and
sounds like Tom Cleese to me.
And they had they were doing some charity work for disadvantaged kids, and they were like, "Oh, what do you do?" I said, "Oh, I'm a roadie." And then I said, "Yeah, it's not noble compared to what you do." And then on my way home, I was thinking, "Hang on, no." Like, okay, it's not life or death, but it's
It's fucking cathartic for people.
It's fucking close. Do you know what I mean? and you know, to be a cog in that machine.
Yeah.
Is actually we are propping up these fucking unforgettable nights for people.
Yeah.
You know, and these you know, human experiences that are, you know, they sail very close to being spiritual.
Well, thank you for what you do, Tom.
And well, listen, I thank everyone for having me. You know, like most of us in many professions, I've always felt like a chancer. You know, especially as this, you know, you don't need qualifications for this. You know what I mean? And it's an unregulated industry, but yeah, I'm glad to have had longevity. I'm sort of trying. I did a degree during lockdown.
Yeah, you mentioned this. Yeah, tell me more about this, Tom.
Drama, applied theatre and performance.
I should have fucking guessed it, shouldn't I?
So I'm now making short films.
Great, wow.
Project's called 12 a Day. It's about, that's how many men in Britain kill themselves. So yeah, the plan is to make 12. I've done my first one, and thanks, Bill. And it's great. I'm very, 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 very proud of it. And I've been doing a bit of theatre and education in schools in East London, which has been wicked. But it's hard, and I'm about to start looking for an agent. And I'm also writing a screenplay, which...
Oh, you're making an album as well, Tom?
I'm making that. This is taking a long time, yeah.
Thanks for making the time for me today.
It's called hashtag Death Earth Death, and it's me and the wonderful Hugo White.
Who, sorry?
Hugo White. Lord Hugo of White. Yeah, we're taking time, you know. I've always been afraid of end product, I think. I don't know what that is. I might need another bout of therapy to get me over the line.
You've got to call it time at some point, Tom. You've got to just say that is the thing and it's done.
Yeah, exactly. What I think might happen is we might do a couple of bits on days off this year, maybe just to sort of get it close to being finished.
But make sure Hugo doesn't have too many days off, though, Tom. You know what I mean? I've got a lot of Maccabeesing to do this summer.
Mate, I still... Well, me and Felix were saying the other day, it's a sort of pinch yourself thing. It's happening again. Glastonbury is going to be the one for me. And look,
it's going to be mega.
All Points East will be wicked because it's London, it's their day, you know, and they're curating it, and they've got some great acts. So
Can you give me any more names that haven't been announced yet, Tom?
No, I can't.
Fine.
And I'm rubbish at remembering that stuff, but I know that there's
the lineup so far is enough, man. Fucking
a really good,
it's stacked.
A really good lineup.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a good crack. Look, I know quite a lot of people bitch and they're like, "Oh, it's so quiet there." I saw some great bands there.
I've had some great ones, man. Yeah. I've had some great ones. Annoyingly, I know what you're referring to is the Strokes one. They've had 2 really quiet shows there, and it was so annoying because the last one they did, the sound was particularly amazing for everyone on that stage all day until the second the Strokes buddy started.
See, that's their team, isn't it? Or is it they have to drop the DB?
It's the council. I think it's the council.
They have to drop the DB after a certain time.
I think it's the council. I really do.
I saw K Tempest there.
Yeah.
And this sounds very like...
Oh, on one of the smaller stages, the side stage. I mean, I might have seen that as well.
It was about 3 years ago, I think. It was when Nick Cave was headlining.
Okay.
And a dear friend of mine got us guest list. She got us 4 tickets. So me and my kid's best mate and her dad, Oliver, who I was out drinking with last night, lovely chap. We went and had an absolutely great time. And yeah, this is going to sound like, ooh, listen to Tommy Showbiz, but... My mate does lights for Kay, so I was like, "Oh, let me go and have a look." Oh, it's probably not going to be because it was a daytime. Kay was doing Grace. Do you know that tune? I mean, we can put it on the playlist. I've never worked with Kay, but
what's going on?
I love it. Oh my god! And I was crying, you know, and it was really intense. Anyway, I went to the front house position to see if my mate Louisa Smurthwaite, shout out, absolute legend.
If you're listening, Louisa,
and. PJ Harvey was standing there, and I'd not long started working with Polly.
Right.
I do her book stuff, not her music stuff. So I went over, and I was like, you could see people going, "Who's this prick?" You know, with his jewellery.
Been there.
You know. Anyway, stood and watched Kay with Polly, and then Monday just gone, I did Jules Holland with Sugababes, and Kay was on the lineup.
Oh, great.
In the canteen, I just thought, fuck it, and I went over and I said, "Listen, mate, I think you're an absolute legend." Which was nice, you know, and had a couple of little chats. And then after the recording, so my kid had been going through some stuff at school, you know, teenage girl, at a girls' school. You know, it's a roller coaster for all of them, isn't it? Anyway, I had a hug with Kay, and then he was like, "Oh," I said, "Oh, you're cool as fuck, mate." And he was like, "Well, so are you." I said, would you leave a video message for my kid? He did.
That's pretty cool.
Pep talk to a teenager.
Ah, fucking that's cool.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny? I thought I'd pulled a really cool dad move there. Sent it to my kid. She just did the thumb.
Oh, fucking hell.
And then...
That's what dads do. That's the dad move.
Dads are supposed to do that. And then we chatted about it. I think it was the next day. And she was like, oh, yeah, who's your mate? Didn't know, didn't realise it was Kay. Anyway. Stories and stories and stories.
But it's funny you say that, because I went through a phase of seeing them quite a lot one year. Some Primavera, All Points East, somewhere else, and Glastonbury as well, in the space of the same summer. And one of them I watched with my Auntie Lou, if you're listening. Auntie Lou was like fucking blown away by this performance.
Yeah.
And was like, this is the sort of shit they should be teaching kids at school, not fucking Shakespeare and all that other bollocks poetry. That is what's going to speak to kids.
It should enter the canon.
Apart from your daughter, apparently.
No, it should enter the canon. No question. Have you seen the new tune?
Not yet, no.
Oh, mate, he's got himself as a young girl spitting bars and using those bars in the tune to talk about how you've got your back, you've got your own back, and here we are in the future, and it's fist punching.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yes. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Speaking of powerful, how am I going to segue this? Well, I'll tell you what, Guillemots.
Guillemots. Ugh. Yeah. That was a funny one. Went to the pub in Camden with my mate, who used to berate me for having my phone with me.
Okay.
And, like, taking my phone out when we were having conversations.
Sure.
Anyway, I got a phone call. Hey, Tom, it's Martin here. Just wondering, are you free for the next, I think it's 4 or 5 days?
Sure.
Come and do some shows with Guillemots. And I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to. I had a massive crush on Arista, and loved the songwriting. And
ongoing theme here, Tom, but yeah.
So I said, yeah, when do we start? Well, we're loading the truck now. So someone had a breakdown at the back of the truck and just said, I can't do it. He'd just come back from some work with Motorhead, I think. He was Lemmy's assistant, something like that. Anyway,
surely there's a difference between going on tour with Lemmy and going on tour with the Guillemots.
Well, you never know. I'd say the most dangerous band I've ever been on tour. Well, not the most. But Magic Numbers. You might think,
really?
You might think, woohoo! But
we'll come back to that.
Mate, you always have 2 drinks in your hand. You have your beer and your posh drink, and it's usually 6 a.m. bedtime. Yeah, harsh band to tour with. Anyway, who were we talking about before?
The Guillemots. If you'd be so kind.
So yeah, I just said to my mate, sorry, I've just got some work. I've got to go. Legged it home to Hackney, grabbed my tools and a bag. Got to their place in Hackney. I said, well, let me, I can't touch the truck because I've had a drink and a smoke. So, and they were like, that's fine, you're doing us a favour. I said, no, let me say hello to the tour manager. I don't normally turn up to drunk work, so I feel a bit, work drunk. And put my head round the door into the office. Hey, Sharpie! And it was my mate Neil Sharp. And he was like, oh, okay, we're good. If Clues is here, it's fine. Which was lovely, that turned into like a year and a half.
Great. And when would that have been? What year was this?
Oh, I think 2008, maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that. It was the album Red.
And were you picking a song from Red?
Yeah, Don't Look Down.
Don't Look Down.
No questions. Fife came over for lunch last summer. I made vegetarian Scotch eggs, and we took them up into Epping Forest because he's a twitcher. Yeah, stay friends. Love Fife, absolutely. Had some great times with him. Did Latitude, which was lovely. Done that with a few bands. Good festival.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, I saw Fife actually last year. He was doing a little thing with The Great Escape in Brighton, in a little record shop. Yeah, brilliant band. Underrated, I think.
I can't say I've dug into their work too much, but Trains to Brazil is about as good as it gets, isn't it, really? Yeah, we'll have a bit of that.
We did a tour with REM. It was like, it was stadiums. And
in the States or here?
Here. And we did Twickenham.
Wow.
And what's the song? Guillemots used to end their set with a song, and...
Year and a half of them, you said, Tom.
I'm 51, man. Fucking hell. Anyway, the closing song, they would get any bands that were around and all the crew to come out with percussion.
Oh, great. Yeah, love this.
And had this kind of, carnival vibe. Fife had tuned dustbin lids. Yeah. And Peter...
Did you have to tune dustbin lids as part of your job, Tom?
I think, well, fucking hell. And we met Michael Stipe. He came into the dressing room and he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I thanked you last night and I called you Guilemo. And my boyfriend pointed out that it's actually Guillemots. I'm sorry for that." But that was that, right? Yes, security guard with him. But every night, Peter Buck and Mike Mills were side of stage.
That's
for
cool.
Guillemots, which I thought was cool as fuck.
Yeah.
So on the London one in Twickenham, I went over to Mike Mills because we'd been chatting a bit and he was really friendly. And I said, I just gave him a fucking cowbell and a drumstick. And I said, "You know when the bit happens." And so he did Fife's face when he saw one of our EMs stood behind him with a bloody cowbell.
Class. Love it.
Great, yeah, lovely.
Love it. You mentioned magic numbers.
Magic numbers, yeah. So all this is like late noughties.
Yeah.
I think.
So the magic numbers were at their peak in like 03, 04, right?
Yeah.
So you're on the later age of their career, was you?
I've done a lot of this with bands.
Yeah.
Where I'm on the
second or third album. Right, okay. So a lot of inter-band tension that Tom has to manage.
See, I'm not, I mean, yes, I know.
Tour bus therapist over here.
Yeah. I got a lot of time for magic numbers.
Yeah.
They're absolutely wonderful. I, in fact, recorded a song with them. Another band that I worked for around that time, legendary British band that, they're very Marmite. A band called Cardiacs. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. No. They had a very loyal following, absolutely sensational band.
Good name. Love that.
Yeah. They were originally called Cardiac Arrest, and ironically, that's what happened with Tim. He had a stroke and a cardiac arrest, and had to type to speak. Wow. And then he died during lockdown, which was a release, and I think about Tim all the time.
Yeah,
absolute fucking one-off legend.
Wow.
Have a look at some of the earlier stuff on YouTube, but they never.
What was their vibe sonically?
People called them punk prog. I mean, just genius.
Wow.
Tim Smith.
What song are we going with for this one? For Cardiac.
Well, it ties in with. Magic Numbers. So a tribute album was done of covers for Cardiacs to make money for Tim. And I was on tour with Magic Numbers at the time. And I just harassed Romeo every night. I said, I'm going to be on that. Like, I have to be. It's too much of a gift. You've got Tim's tech here. And so I did A Little Man in a House on the Whole World Window, which is an incredible tune.
So lots of words to write down there, Tom. Once more from us.
A Little Man in a House on the Whole World Window. And
I'm going to abbreviate that to Little.
Yeah, Little Man in a House. And so there's a version of that done by Magic Numbers. It was basically Romeo. And we finished the tour and went straight into the studio, and I did the drums and the backing vocals.
Nice.
So that exists in the world. In fact, I listened to it this morning.
Did you? Nice.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Great. Is it quite close to the original, or have you put the Magic Numbers Tom Cleese stamp on it?
Yeah, it's hard to not be like the original, but it's also really hard to be like the original, So it's it's got a different vibe. It's got Romeo's sort of transatlantic sort of drawl, I suppose you would say. Magic Numbers. We're on a bus once. So it's two brothers and sisters.
Two sisters, yeah.
So you've got Trinidadians and then Irish.
Don't realise that.
Yeah, well, they grew up in Queens, the Trinidadians, and then moved to London.
Why do they think they're from West London?
Well, that's because they sort of had their mid-teens. They moved here.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
And then those two met the Irish two.
Wow.
Anyway, Sean, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. I love Sean, the drummer, absolute fucking nut, and just a really warm guy. And we had like great conversations. Hard drinking man. And one night he was kind of gathering what booze there was on the bus because he didn't want to run out. Right? And Ange, his sister, she went, Sean, there's other people on here as well who've worked hard all day. And he went, yeah, I just got to make sure I got to have mine, right? And they ended up getting into a row. They used to row quite a lot, but they loved each other to pieces, And in his defence to her, he said, yeah, fuck off, Ange, I taught you how to walk. And she said, yeah, look at me, I walk shit.
That's good gear, Tom.
Gorgeous.
That's good gear.
Gorgeous, beautiful people. Yeah, I had a great time with them. But yeah, like I say, a lot of hedonism. My kid's first ever time in a venue was Shepherd's Bush Empire.
Home gig from, I guess, right?
Yeah, for a sound check, and the snare was getting whacked. She started crying. We had to get her up and out of the room.
Well, I can say from experience, I've seen you bring your daughter to work before. When Orlando done his Christmas album.
I've got pictures of that framed.
Yeah, I was up in the top watching you hard at work with your little one. It was very sweet, Tom.
Yeah, she did the Towels and Waters for the Ali Pali last 3, and she sat in Guitar World with me. She was wearing a little polka dot dress. She would have been 7, and she was holding the set list. And like every time a song finished, she'd go, "I'm not hearing that one again."
Oh, fucking hell. Killing me here, Tom. Oh, my God. Wow. Here's a question.
Go on.
As a man that's been in the industry for this long, how has it affected your enjoyment of music, particularly live music?
Well, it becomes a busman's holiday.
Yeah.
There are bands that I won't listen to because I've seen them live and they've done things that I just thought were so sloppy. Explosions in the Sky. I'm sure they're a lovely bunch of people, but I saw them play, I think it was at the Astoria, and there was a cardboard box on the stage, not intentionally. And I just thought, nah, I'm not going to listen to you. That might sound really stupid to people, but seeing like, no,
you're
mate,
a perfectionist. You take pride in what you do, Tom.
Listen, what happens, right, in the biz of show?
You can say show business. Go on.
in music, for me, right, it doesn't matter if it's fucking Steps or if it's Kings of Leon or Prince, whatever. The spaceship fucking lands, right? And that's it. And the aliens get out and show you what they've got. And that needs to look, feel, and sound like, oh, what the fuck was that? Yeah, no way. If there's a fucking cardboard box left on stage, for me, I'm going to go, nah, not interested, lads. Not interested. Put the fucking box off the stage.
Show us you fucking care.
Do you know what I mean?
Take some fucking pride in your work.
And this is why when I was younger, we used to say stupid. I mean, I still do, right? But we used to say...
Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Yeah. We used to say, nobody leaves the show whistling the lights, right? And, you know, there's a history of backline techs getting annoyed with lights being everywhere. But actually, it's so much part of the experience. The spaceship landing, you know. Often I don't get to experience it because I'm side of stage.
Sure. You made your deal with the devil, right?
I went to see Idols for my birthday a few years ago. My mate Mark is their manager. We used to do Kelis together when he wasn't managing bands. And so he got me front row balcony. And I watched the gig and I was like, fuck, these lights are sensational. Like, what? Unbelievable. And it's quite late in the day, really, for me to sort of have the penny drop moment on lights. But I've seen beautiful stuff before. But like I say, usually they're just in the fucking way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's annoying.
Sure.
But it is part of the spaceship.
I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I found out that the person that had designed the show for Idols was the wonderful Ed Warren, who you should have on.
Oh, believe me, I know Ed Warren.
You should have Ed on.
To get this, right?
His wife is my landlord.
Really? Yes. Amazing. To get this, I've got a funny thing with Ed. So basically, I was at Benicassim, it must have been fucking 2010, 2011 now. And I've been following Ed on Twitter for a while. I'm not quite sure how he entered my orbit, but he did. And I followed him on Twitter. Funny guy, right?
Yeah.
Interesting guy.
Bill Murray.
And then my dear friend, Fred, was chatting away, looking forward to watching the Strokes that night at Benicassim. And she goes, oh, funny enough, get this. My cousin's doing the lights for him, for the Strokes. And I said, your cousin's doing the lights for the Strokes? Is your cousin Ed Warren? She goes, yeah, how do you know? I said, bear in mind, Fred's been my mate for a couple of years at this point.
Yeah.
I've been following the guy on Twitter for the last year and a half. He's a fucking legend. Are you telling me that's amazing? So I had an in. So I got to meet Ed at a family do of Fred's. And we've been acquaintances ever since and shaking hands many a time.
Brilliant. I had lunch with him recently, actually, on the... Cause he designed the Sugababes tour.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So he brought his kids down
He
for
must
lunch.
be a busy boy, man.
Oh, mate. He's such a lovely guy.
Yeah. Went to see him down in Margate a couple of times. He's in Manchester now, isn't he?
He's in Manchester, yeah.
Yeah. Ed, if you're listening, we want you on the podcast. He said he's not famous enough to come on.
Oh, well, come on. You're more famous than me, Ed. Jesus Christ.
Infamous.
Bring
not
it.
famous, but yeah, he's got the goods. I'll have that conversation.
He certainly has.
You mentioned Kelis, shall we?
Well, no, let's go a little bit earlier, I think, because we could tie this in with Ed. I think the first time Ed reminded me of this, a Cardiacs tour supporting Wild Hearts. And I think that was Ed's first ever tour. This is like 20 years ago. And Ed was on that with the Wild Hearts, and I was with... Anyway, our first tour working with the same act was Laura Marling, and that was 2010, I think. She knitted some boots for my kid, which was really lovely.
That is very sweet.
Yeah. And she wrote Rambling Man. Come on.
Fucking hell.
You know.
It's... but you know what? Funny enough, talking about Laura Marling on a podcast I was recording yesterday, very special place in my heart. I had my heart broken to her first album,
right,
and found love to her second album,
right.
And it's just songs that I can't even listen to Rambling Man. I just fall apart. Really, it's captured a very special moment in my life.
Yeah,
and what a woman.
First thing she ever said to me was, "I've been warned about you."
Tell me more.
Oh, you know, it gets a bit dark, and I think I used to sort of have that as a mechanism of just like, you know, say the darkest shit, and then, you know, people, I don't know what it was.
A little test, maybe.
Yeah, sort of, some sort of social, not even
defect.
Yeah, I was going to say lubricant, but it's not really, is it? It's more of a fucking fly in the ointment. And I think I shot myself in the foot really in that camp. I took paternity, and then someone covered for me, and then she wanted him to stay.
Right.
Because I play all kinds of instruments and all kinds of styles.
Sure.
And for line check, I used to play her own songs. You know, the kind of intricate, picky, folky stuff.
Can't do what she does, yeah.
And she came up and she was like, "What? I didn't, what?" She was really confused.
She got funny about you playing her stuff?
No, she didn't get funny. I think she said something along the lines of, "Oh, I thought you would be like punk and metal." And I was like, I am as well.
I've got a couple of hats.
Many hats. Yeah.
Here's a question. She doesn't play a lot of electric guitar. Is going on tour with someone who plays very folky acoustic stuff an easier day's work for you, Tom?
No. Tuning acoustics.
Yeah, she's got a lot of different tunings, hasn't she, I guess?
Yeah, she's got different tunings, so you've got the risk of things popping.
Right, yeah, got it.
You know, you're taking the tension up much more on the neck.
Yes,
and,
a lot more jeopardy for Mr. Clues.
Yeah, and also just hearing. You know, you have to... You know, I'll have like two tuners going into a little mini amp with the headphones, so I can hear it and see it. You know, to make sure. No, it's much this. It's all much of a muchness.
When you're this far in, when you're this good at what you do.
Well, it's not even that, Bill. I think it's just, you know, a gig's a gig. You know, there are different components depending on who you're with, but a gig's, you know, I can't grumble at it. When I was doing Jules on Monday, Peggy Seeger was on. She's Kirsty McCall's mum.
Oh, right, wow.
Pete Seeger's sister.
Kirsty McCall's mum?
Yeah.
Right.
She's absolute ledge. She, I hope I've got that right. I'm pretty sure I have got that right. She was definitely married to Kirsty's dad. Anyway, she said this thing about touring, because she's in her 80s, and
she can't be young, yeah.
And she's saying she's going to stop touring, right? And she was saying...
in your 80s, that's fair enough.
And she said, this lovely thing about touring, she said, we sing for free... We get paid to travel.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of it, you know.
I've heard this said.
So it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're at work, like most of the time. You know, there are times where, you know, you go and party and have a laugh or whatever. I got a lovely story about international travel. I was in Brisbane with the Wombats, and my life was falling apart at home, right, through bad decisions and
been there, brother.
All kinds of things. Anyway, so I was pretty skint, and you know, 5-star hotel in Brisbane, but with nothing in the bank, you know. And I really fancied a drink. And I went, okay. And I was a dad at this point, so I wasn't raising her at that point. She was still with her mum. But so fuck it. I just walked into town, and I looked. Clubs, where are the clubs? There are clubs. And I saw a long queue outside this club. So I went to the front, and I said to the security guy, could I speak with your head of security, please? Oh, yeah, okay. Guy came out, and I said, I'm part of the security team for a British band, the Wombats. We have a big show in town tomorrow, and I'm looking for somewhere for the after show. Could you show me around? Yeah, come on in. Here's the general manager, Tony. Hello, Tony. Nice to meet you. I'm Tom. Hi, Tom. what we could do for you, mate, is we could have a roped off area over here and a da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Do you want to speak to someone else? And I said, no, I've already looked them up on LinkedIn, And he turned to the barmaid and he said, this is Tom, he drinks for free. And I sat in there and I had about 6 pints.
Class.
No,
Fucking class.
In theory, Bill, anyone could do that anywhere in the world. Just who's in town today? It's like the carrying a ladder thing, isn't it? Getting anywhere carrying a ladder or a high vis.
It's funny you say that because I've seen it done.
Yeah.
Mate of mine, when the Who played Hyde Park, did exactly that. He was carrying, I want to say a chair. I think it was a chair and wearing a high vis. And there's video footage of him on like a 2008, 2009 phone walking on stage at Hyde Park while the Who's crew are setting up. It can be done, Tom. It can be done. John Ritterband, if you're listening.
Love it. Love it.
Class. You're going to give me a song from Laura?
Yeah, Rambling Man.
Yeah, bang on with that.
A Rambling Man. Yeah, no question. And actually, when I was doing Laura, it was the same time that she was with Marcus Mumford.
I imagine there's a segue onto this one.
Yeah, and they shared management at the time. And it was when it was Mumford's first album, and they were just starting to skyrocket. Yeah. My mate Adam was looking after them backline on his own.
And I guess Ed's on lights at this point, right?
Yeah. And so I ended up going and doing double gigs in festivals. So if they were on the same festival, Laura would usually be afternoon, and then Mumford's would be tea time-ish. So I'd pack down Laura and then go and help Adam with Mumford's.
Double bubble?
Yeah,
gorgeous.
Interesting. I mean, God.
Going back to that question earlier about the folk thing and like how different it is doing your job, different instruments. How do you tune a banjo well? How do you tune a double bass that well?
Yeah, well, some stuff...
Is that testing your skill set a bit, Tom?
I mean, a little bit, yeah. I remember doing a gig with Laura at a festival and opening the cello case and the bridge had popped. And that was kind of beyond my... I had to go and get the cello player and we did it together.
Wow.
I think we ended up borrowing a cello.
I was going to say, has anyone got a cello? Has anyone here got a cello?
Yeah, I think we did. So no, I guess the folky stuff... It's when you're presented with instruments that you don't normally, but they're all similar.
Sure.
It's all
four strings and a tuning peg. You adapt.
That's right, mate.
You adapt.
That's right.
What song are we going for?
With Mumford's, do you know what? So I had a partner for a while, and she...
Got a couple by the sound of it, Tom.
I have, yeah. Still looking, ladies. Anyway, I had a partner who kind of... I said, they're really nice lads, Mumford's. And she was very much of the opinion that they were in the dressing up box, not just in the literal sense, but in the cultural sense.
Yeah.
Slumming it, that whole thing they did on the trains and the whole sort of waistcoat and, spit and sawdust.
Pretty fair criticism, I think,
When actually, they were all destined to be wealthy young men, regardless of their success. Yeah. That doesn't take anything away, because Marcus can write a fucking tune.
Yes, he can.
No shit, But bringing it back to the Maccabees, actually.
Please.
They are huge Maccabees fans. They're obsessed. They wanted to be the Maccabees, and I forget the album.
Same.
But it was the one that came out around the same time as Mark's To Prove It. It was a Mumford's album. And there's a song on there called Ditmus, and it's a really great tune. It really, his vocal, his lyric, the playing.
Ditmus, you're saying?
Ditmus, Ditmus.
That one I'm familiar with.
The video is a direct rip. It starts with them in a circle, in a. The narrative goes off slightly differently. There's horseback riding and stuff in theirs, but Felix had bumped into Ben Lovett on the tube.
Oh, Ben?
Yeah, and
a word, please.
No, this was before it had come out.
Oh, right.
And
okay.
they were, and he was like, "Oh, how's your album sounding?" And I'm paraphrasing, but Ben said something along the lines of, "Yeah, it's like Maccabees, but more commercial." What? What are you on about, mate?
Wow.
Anyway, I don't know. So I've got, this is why my love for the Maccabees is forever, because I've read reviews where they've literally been slagged off because of their names, right? And it's people acting like they're, hey, we're really cool and we can slag people off because of their middle class names. Yes and no. Do you know what I mean? And for me, it's about spirit. But I've had conversations with members of the Maccabees about wealth disparity and comfort, and my heart rate is there's probably a graph somewhere that shows I'm not set to get any cash from anywhere. But they come from relatively comfortable backgrounds, but to share a space and to tour with people that are definitely much more socially comfortable than you is an interesting thing. And some will do everything to sort of throw silk over the elephant in the room. Do you know what I mean? And I think Mumfords do that.
That phrase, yeah.
I think they do.
Yeah.
And then of course, I'm not here to slag people off, but Winston, mate, took a fucking L. I made a joke once. I said vaccines and Mumfords, they met in the House of Lords creche. Maccabees wouldn't have been in that creche.
No.
That's probably the way to say it, But,
I think that's fair.
Yeah, you can get caught up in all that shit as well. I grew up in a council estate, and my kids always sort of say, what are we then? What are we? Because, I don't own, I rent, But to be able to be with people that are comfortable and have that awkward little conversation, I think it's great.
Because I've got it now. Like not so many. I've got a couple of friends of mine who are, very successful people earning lots of money. I'm not. I fucking work in a hotel. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's why I've got so much love for Oasis. From the Dole Queue to Top of the Pops. Incredible.
Unimaginable now, isn't it?
I bumped into Gem recently.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, I did a really cool thing, Strummerville, which is Joe Strummer's charity.
Yeah.
When I was working with Pretenders and Chrissy Hind, she curated a night, so she put a band together. So it was Martin Chambers from Pretenders on drums, James Walborn from Pretenders on guitar, Gem Archer on guitar, Glenn Matlock on bass. And then we had different guests. Mick Jones, I got to restring Mick Jones's guitar, which was
pretty cool.
Great. And Gem was really, really lovely. Like, just fucking such a nice guy. And I bumped into him recently at an exhibition down in Soho, the Rock and Roll Public Library. I don't know if you...
No, I not heard of that.
I hope it comes back. It was really, really great. Anyway, I ended up having a long chat with him, and my kid came back after, and she was like, "God, that was so boring." And I had said to her, "We might meet someone." And Gem was with an old friend of mine from the band Heavy Stereo, who was signed to Creation. Gem was in that band, and I was friends with his bandmate, and so I bumped into them. So then, and I said to my kid at the end of it, I said, "Do you know who that was?" And she was like, "No." I said, "It's one of Oasis." And she went, "Oh, actual Oasis." And she had to give me a little begrudging, like, "Yeah, my dad's probably cool."
Pretty quite cool, actually.
What a cunt.
I've got a funny Gem story if you'd like it.
Yes, love Gem.
So I met Gem at a very good Gem Archer situation. Bootleg Beatles at Christmas, Hammersmith Apollo. We are in Gem territory, aren't we?
Argue with that. We're in Hugo White territory as well with that.
We are. It was so I bumped into him. Gem, fucking hell, massive fan, brother. Can't tell you how many times I watched that Jules Holland performance from 2000, Familiar to Millions, just fucking hell in my bedroom in VHS, watch it, repeat. You've been such a large part of my life. Thank you for what you've done. Can I get you a drink? He goes, "Mate, thank you so much. Really, really sweet of you. I'm good. I'm in around. Don't you worry about it. Bless you. Cheers, Gem." About half hour later, bumped into him again. "Gem, I want to get you a drink, brother. You've done so much. You've enhanced my life in such a big way. Please." Honestly, mate, all good. Appreciate you though. Legend. Third time I've seen him.
Were you a little bit more tipsy at this point?
Hey, Gem.
Yeah.
Gem, let me get you a drink. He goes, "Yeah, do you know actually, mate, well, actually, a double rum and coke, please." I go, "Yeah, it's nice seeing you again. Pleasure." So I couldn't afford that. But nice guy.
Lovely guy. I'm looking
Nice
for. Look,
guy.
I wouldn't buy a ticket to go and see the what's going to unfold.
I'd buy two. I've got two.
You got
Tom.
two. Where are you seeing?
Double Wembley's.
Are you going to the first?
I'm not going to the first. First in Cardiff.
Is that the first one? Is it?
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
that I'd like to be there for the first 30 seconds, and then I'd be good.
So they've been a big part of your life, Oasis?
No,
Small
part. I was very contrary when I was younger. So if a band was massive, I wouldn't listen to them.
balls would go up.
Nirvana was one. Oasis was definitely one. But there are moments with them where you go, yeah, this is fucking undeniable.
Your slideaways, your champagne supernovas.
That first album as well, it's got such a Pistols vibe to it, And that gig, when they did 2 nights at Wembley, Liam got home after the first night and Patsy had taken all the furniture.
That's right.
And so then the second night, if you watch it, there are a few documentaries about it.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Incredible how his brain was able to do what it did, right? Because it looked like sabotage. right?
Well, it was.
To a point, but what he was doing was he took out words
Certain words.
like words like love and woman and...
Is it even trying to roll with it? I think I got a feeling inside. Inside. It's like, I'm not quite sure what he's doing here.
Well, I loved it. I thought it was
pretty punk.
Yeah, punk as fuck, and they are, and
But I tell you what, every person in that building that day still loved it. I can assure you that much.
Yeah.
It doesn't look that good on TV.
Yeah.
You think, what the fuck's going on? Everyone in that stadium, they're still singing along, having a lovely, lovely day.
Absolutely, and fair play to them.
Should we get back to your CV,
Yeah,
Tom?
where are we?
Fuck knows, mate.
Here's adjacent to Laura and Mumford's is Noah and the Whale.
Yes, please. We're keeping it West London.
I did Noah and the Whale for, I was saying I've often been on this sort of sinking ship. So I did their last album. And yeah, there was a lot of sadness in the air. It was just before they split up. But an abiding memory was, and I say abiding, and then I forget the festival. It was one of those lovely. It's in some National Trust grounds, I think. It's very boutique-y kind of. It looks like a Sunday supplement.
Well, let me into them once, Tom. I wouldn't know.
What's it fucking called? Anyway, they did. They headlined Noah and the Whale, and they did that song "First Days of Spring," which
we're putting it down.
Yeah,
that's the one.
Put it down. And that was, as far as I know, that was written about Laura.
Oh, really?
And Charlie and Laura splitting up, and getting your heart put back together, slowly. But they played it, and we had fireworks for the crescendo behind the stage. I mean, I'm a crying man, Bill. I love a cry, and
welcome to the podcast, Tom.
The good thing about this job is as long as you're doing everything right, you can cry at work. And I bloody did cry that night. It was so emotional.
How come? What was driving that?
This is beautiful explosion that happens at the end of that song, and there's a tension that's just for the whole. Do you know the song? First Days of Spring.
I don't.
Oh, it's really, really beautiful, and it's honest. You can feel the honesty and the rawness, and they are very much House of Lords Creche kids. So what? Delivered this beautiful.
Made you cry your eyes out.
Nick Drake is probably my Elvis, right? Pink Moon. If I had to have one album in my life, it would be Pink Moon. One of the poshest people to walk this lovely island,
right?
So when it hits you, it doesn't really matter where it's coming from, I think.
I will say this though, Tom, this has completely contradicted the answer you gave to my question earlier about still enjoying live music. Now, the thing is, though, Bill, right, honestly, once you start doing it for a living, like, fucking, it's just a job, mate. You're full of shit, you are, mate.
I was crying.
It's such a beautiful song, Bill, in this crescendo and the beauty of the fireworks. Fuck off, Tom, you're full of shit. Up next, Foals, talk to me.
Foals?
Yes, please.
I've got a list here, right? And I do you know what? I haven't even had that much wine, but I feel emboldened. Yeah, I've got an X next to them. I really like Walter. And the guitar player, what's his name?
Jimmy.
Jimmy and Walter, tick. Big ticks for those guys.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just leave it at that.
On to Kelis, please, Tom.
Oh, Kelis.
Now, I remember you telling me a good Kelis anecdote. Maybe it's not mine to say, but it involves Glastonbury and football and lying about stage times.
Oh, yeah. We told her a little fib. We said it was £1,000 a minute if you were late, and because she'd been late quite a bit over the summer.
Which she's allowed to be. She's Kelis.
Not in Japan. Everyone freaks out with lateness in Japan. So it had been a bit of a thing. And with Glastonbury, of course, you don't want to be the band that fucks the schedule. So yeah, we told little Porky, and there she was, like 10 minutes before, all ready to go. She used to do this thing. Here's a lovely story with Kelis. Right? When I first started working with her, I had a huge crush on her.
Sure.
No shit. And so she wears different shoes, which means the microphone stand has to be a different height. And when she walks on stage, she wants it to be ready. So I said to her right at the beginning of my tenure, how do you want to do mic stand? Shall I bring it into the dressing room? And she said, no. She said, come find me in the dressing room when I got my shoes on. And then wherever my mouth is on you, That's where the mic stand goes.
What a woman.
Jesus Christ.
It's not a bad life, is it, Tom?
It's not.
It's not a bad life.
I got to hang out with her lovely kid, a really lovely boy, who had a nanny who wasn't great at being a nanny. So
apparently Tom's then taken up that mantle, part of the job, and it's Tom.
Yeah, so I emptied one of the drawers in my production case and I put toy cars, crayons, sweets, and during gigs he would just be with me, and we had a really nice time.
Class.
A few years after, I was at a festival in Ireland. This blacked out Merc pulled up by catering, and it was Kelis and her son. And I was like, hey! And he came up and he was like, hey, Tom! And she was like, you're the only one he still talks about from that tour. And I was like, yeah, because everyone else was afraid. It's the boss's kid. That's one way I've stayed employed. Never be afraid. Just be who you are. You know, don't lick arse to people.
What song are we going for from Kelis, Tom?
Trick Me.
Love it.
I tell you why. Because it was as far as I know, it was written about what's his face, Pharrell,
who's turned out to be a massive cunt.
Yeah, an absolute Zio prick who does fundraisers for the Israeli army.
Well, that I didn't know. Fuck me, worse than I thought.
Yeah, awful.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
I was going to say how he sort of done Kelis dirty and robbed her of lots of money in publishing.
Yeah.
Didn't realize he's funding a fucking Israeli army.
I mean, they're both pretty terrible things to do. So Trick Me for that, I think.
Banger. Yeah, I'll get behind that.
Yeah.
Swayed me, Tom. Swayed me.
Oh, God. First thing I did with them was Graham Norton.
Yeah, how does that differ as a day's work, doing like a TV performance as opposed to a live show?
Depends on the thing. I mean, we were talking about Jules. That's a long one.
I can believe that.
It's different. It's not as exciting, I don't think.
Yeah, I always thought that, even as like a performer, for everyone involved, an entire day sat around for 3 minutes performance.
Yeah, exactly.
I've always found it quite stressful watching those shows, knowing how much hard work has gone into it.
It's basically the spaceship door opens and then closes.
Yeah, sounds horrible.
It doesn't even land.
Give me 90 minutes. Give me an arc, Give me a highs and lows.
So yeah, did that, and then ended up covering a bunch of shows, and then it became my gig. I think the first show I did with them was in Denmark, and I was like, oh my god, just endless bangers. What a fucking great band.
Unbelievably handsome still. I used to see him quite a bit, Brett.
Very sexy guy.
Very sexy guy. He used to go to the same coffee place as me in Notting Hill.
Right.
I lived in Ladbroke Grove for a couple of years, and he'd be on Portobello Road, coffee plant, in his workout gear, never sweating. I used to see him running through Hyde Park on a few occasions, never sweating.
He's a gentleman. Gentlemen don't sweat.
What song are we going for, Tom?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? So they were really good to me in lockdown. They got bored, and they went and recorded an EP and an album.
All right.
And I was
bored during lockdown.
So I was involved in some of the stuff at the studios, which was great. Minimal. It's just setting stuff up and blah blah blah. But they did that album. I forget the name of it, but there's one song on it called "She Still Leads Me On." You heard it?
No.
Jesus Christ, the vocal on that. So it's either that or So Young. What a killer band. And big shout out to Richard Oakes. Do you know the story of how he joined?
No, tell me more.
So Bernard, the original guitar player, Bernard Butler,
course,
there'd been tension and falling out, and it was
in a band.
Really? So Bernard.
So Tom joined the sinking ship, and
no,
go on, please.
I was long after the fact.
Yeah.
So they auditioned lots of people, and nothing stuck. And then they opened a cassette in the studio that had been sent, and they thought that there was a confusion. I think there was a lot of drugs being taken at the time, but I think there was just like, what the fuck is this? This sounds like us. And there was a phone number, and I think it said something like, I should be in your band, something like that. So they rang the number. Hello, can we speak to Richard, please? Oh, sorry, he's at school.
Whoa, wow.
He's doing his A-levels.
Wow.
There's video of it. It's worth looking out for. I think it was a documentary they did on Sky Arts a few years ago.
Oh, wow, that sounds great.
And the drummer, Simon, he kept a video recorder. So he's got loads of this footage from their whole journey, which is wicked. And yeah, Richard's first ever rehearsal, he's 17. Carries his amp in, sets it up, and then just plays like incredibly. So his first ever gig with Suede was, it was Southampton, Portsmouth, somewhere like that. And he told me that the whole section of the crowd in front of him were his schoolmates, like throwing drinks, and like He's in fucking Suede, what? And it was his favourite band. He joined his favourite band.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Love that.
Gorgeous.
What I really like about Suede, I remember reading that once one of the many reformations over the years, that before they even announced the reformation or like book shows or anything, they rehearsed for like 2 weeks. Have we still got it? Let's get into the studio and take it from there. I think that's quite a respectable way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah. They're really wonderful British institution.
So on that note, you mentioned how you said fuck Oasis because they were a big band. Was Suede the kind of band you would have gravitated towards in that era?
No.
Same. Still a bit too big for you.
Same, yeah. And I mean, I was going for. I just like to listen to a lot of obscure music. I've never been a Radio 1. I've never been what are the NME telling us? Bollocks. And I fucking hate people from my generation who are like, oh, there's no good music anymore. It's all this. Fuck off, man. Like, listen to Hack Baker. Absolute dude. Idols. There's so many.
Plenty of guitar bands out there, guys.
Mate,
and they're playing arenas, you know what I mean?
And there are so many bands that will never get to a wide audience who are fucking sensational.
Yeah.
So I think I keep a bit of that, in my music tastes.
Shall we talk Pretenders?
Here's a funny thing with Pretenders. So I did Chrissy's solo stuff. We did a tiny little gig somewhere else, Stevenage or somewhere like that, just as a warm-up. And me and Chrissy were leaving the venue, and this guy just went, "No way, you're Chrissy Hind." And she went, "Yeah, weird, isn't it?" Weird, isn't it?
I like Chrissy.
Chrissy is a powerhouse, She's a really intense woman, a sensational songwriter, a beautiful singer. And, she's a survivor. She's only a couple of years younger than my mum, and she still wears skinny jeans and says cunt all the time. She gave up smoking, and she's like, how? And she's still going, and she's fucking great.
And she gave us one of the great Christmas songs.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not like, I think most people that give the world a good Christmas song are kind of like, it follows them around quite a bit, but it's kind of a separation for 11 months of the year. Yeah. It's of the Pretenders and that song, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't follow them around too much.
I would put on my list for Pretenders, Hymn to Her. What a song.
I think that's my dad's favourite as well, because we saw him support Fleetwood Mac at Wembley a couple of years back. I took my dad to go and watch him. And I'm sure that's the one that he was banging to.
Oh, what a tune. What a tune.
If it's good enough for Tom Cruise, it's good enough for my father, let me tell you.
I lost my job with Pretenders. This is a funny story about how it's an unregulated industry, right? So I was working with Pretenders, and then the Maccabees announced the farewell shows. Well, I was never going to miss them.
Of course.
So I had to get cover, all right? There was a guy lined up. I won't say any names. There was a guy lined up, and I was asked by the production manager to give him a call and sound him out. And technically a really easy gig, but it's how you deal with Chrissy. She's a fucking powerhouse, and she's an intense woman, and she deserves to be. Absolute ledge. I had a chat with this guy, and then I called up production and I said, don't. There's no point. She'll eat him alive. He'll be gone in a few days. I've got someone, and it turned out he could do it. Now, he's one of the most handsome men you'll ever see.
I hate you already.
Yeah. Thick, quiff, French, swarthy, delicious.
Fuck this guy.
Tattoos, leather jackets. Looks like he should be in the Pretenders.
Looks great.
Tattooed love boy, So, perfect. David's going to cover it. We're in Manchester.
His name's literally David as well, of course, yeah.
Yeah. We also call him Cockney Pete. But yeah, David, he got to cover him for me on Pretenders. I'm in Manchester with the Maccabees at the Apollo on that farewell run, and I have a chat with the production manager who says, "I've got some spiky news for you, Tom. Chrissy wants to keep your guy." And I said, what a fucker. That's a whole year of work just gone. Shit it. Then David called me, "Hey Tom, I can't take your work. I won't do it. It's bad form." And I said, "Well, you want to fucking ring Chrissy and tell her?" Chrissy, sorry, we don't operate like this. Fuck it, that's just how it works. Turned out that she was having French lessons, and she was thinking of moving to France. So for her, that's a fucking gift, absolute gift, So there's another little insight into how the world of roadieing can work.
That leads on to something I was going to ask you about, Tom. Like, how important are people skills in your job?
I think crucial might be a bit too much, but I mean, yeah.
You can't get by on skill set alone, I'm sure.
There are different jobs within it where, so if you're a tour manager, you need that very much, to be able to read a room when you walk into it and, know how to deal with bands and stuff. But I've got that, I think, from being in bands and, I seldom get starstruck. Yeah, people skills. I mean, you can't walk around being a cunt. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
I think that's probably outside of bands as well, Tom.
Well,
really,
kind of,
I know what you mean.
You're repping the business wherever you are. And I've done stupid stuff. When I was in the very early days with Gusto, I used to drink so much. I nearly got nicked on a flight to Greece. Sit down. You don't tell me where, like Ian Brown. Fucking, I regulate my drinking, mate. That kind of shit. So, and I went to New Zealand on my birthday once, on a tour. I can't remember. It's about 10 years ago, and told the stewardess that it was my birthday. She was like, "Oh, what would you like to drink?" Whiskey. So she gave me lots of whiskey. When we landed, so lots of whiskey, right, on the flight. The next thing I know, and I'm on a bed. The fuck is going on? There's my case there. I'm in the hotel room. Close. Open the door. It's the wonderful Mick Eggett, monitor engineer extraordinaire. So I've got the weed. What, Mick? I've got the weed. What weed? You sorted it out. What are you on about? Where are we? We're in New Zealand. You sorted the weed out. I said, I can't even remember getting off the fucking plane, mate.
Wow. That's a big gap.
Yeah. Proper blackout. Turns out when we landed, I was so exuberant. A bit too carried away. Rise by Pill. That's that wonderful song, which, if you haven't heard, I mean, you can put it on the fucking playlist. I've never worked for them. It's such a great song. So apparently, I had it in my ears, and I stood up and let the whole plane know that I knew the words and the melody, i.e., I sang it very, very loud. The band were travelling up front. Somehow, I'd got so fucking drunk on the flight. I mean, we were drinking on the way to the airport. And so I did that little number. The next day was a day off in Auckland.
Probably for the best, Tom.
We were walking around, and this couple came up to me, and they were like, "Oh, we loved your singing yesterday." They were on the flight.
We remember you.
And then we got a dressing down off our boss. You are in charge of moving our gear around the planet. That was with the 1975.
The 1975.
Yeah, that was a funny time.
How did it go? Apart from that incident,
I like Matthew Healy. I think he's a really interesting guy. I wish we'd remain friends. I've got a lot of respect for them. I said to him once, I said to Matthew, I said, you know how they got their fans, right? Because of One Direction. So One Direction.
No, describe this to me.
I don't know if it's Harry, but one of One Direction tweeted.
Oh right,
yeah. So then, thousands of teenage girls just went. And I said to Matthew, I said, your band is, Barbie has Ken. Well, Ken is One Direction. You lot are Action Man. You're still toys, but I reckon Barbie would prefer to get on the back of Action Man's motorbike.
That's class. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots and lots of stories with that band.
How long was you with them for?
Only like the first album.
Yeah.
That was it. And I wasn't even on for the front. I was doing Kelis then, and then that finished up and a gap came.
Because I will say this, I saw Matty at the airport quite a lot. I mean, that first album, they were the hardest working band on the planet, weren't they?
Shit.
No doubt about that.
No shit.
I saw him looking very fragile at the airport on many occasions. And I'd have loved to get a selfie, but you can, like you say, about reading a room.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
He'd clearly come straight from many a party. to Heathrow Terminal 3 departures.
He did that thing. Brett actually did this as well, as did did David Bowie do it? Anyway, bigging up your bisexualness.
Sure.
But saying you haven't had a bisexual experience.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, it's a cheap trick.
I feel a bit iffy about
cheap
that.
Trick from
even Harry Styles, like people like Harry Styles are a bit guilty of this, of sort of like, playing to an audience, but you're never going to fuck a guy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the very last night of that first album, we were in Hong Kong. In fact, here's a fucking story about how you got to have your wits about you on tour.
Wine, while Tom does his business.
I went. We'd landed in Hong Kong, and I was in a foul mood, and the internet wasn't working in my room. So I went and kicked off, and they set up my own router in the room, which was really sweet of them in this hotel. And I said to myself, "Oh, come on, man!" And the guy to test it used his own phone and FaceTime his girlfriend, which was so sweet. Oh, that was really nice.
Hi, darling, I'm just checking the Wi-Fi at work.
And I said to myself, look, that was a lovely moment. Let's not stay in the anger. I was angry about things at home and blah, blah. So I was, fuck it, I'll go for a walk, right? And I'll just walk until I'm calm. And when I'm calm, I'll just walk back. And on the sort of rage part of the walk, I walked past this Irish pub, and there were these two really gorgeous women.
This is in Japan, sorry?
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong, yeah.
So I said to myself, well, that's where I'll be going when I'm calm. Yeah? And so I did. I turned back round once I'd, walked it out. And I went into this bar, got a pint of Guinness. And then one of them came over to me and she was like, why are you drinking on your own? And I was like, I'm just travelling, I don't know anyone here. Come and drink with us. Wow. Like these were really, 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 really...
Were they locals or like white girls?
Beautiful women. No, they were Ethiopian.
Ethiopian girls in Hong Kong. Wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and they told me that they had like a fabric business, import and export. I was like, okay, sweet. So we're drinking, and then one of them said something about cocaine, and I said, oh, no. Never been my thing. Not into it at all. I said, weed though, or hash, Oh, well, I've got some hash. I said, oh, do you want to sell me a bit? And she went, no, it's back at the apartment, but we can go back and have a smoke. I was thinking, really? We stopped at an offie.
Bit too good to be true, this, isn't it, Tom?
It's funny, isn't it? You think you're a worldly man. Anyway, we stop at the offie. They buy their own booze. I buy some booze. We get back into their apartment, really small Hong Kong apartment. It's pretty much just a bed and a bathroom and a little strip kitchen. So the three of us are now on the bed, and they gave me the aux cord and the hashish.
Very hospitable.
Yeah, it was very hospitable. Things got a little bit fruity. I'll save your listeners' blushes, but then it stopped, and one of them said, "Okay, now you have to look after the ladies," and I said, "What are you on about?" Oh, and the hashish was opiated as well, which I immediately recognised with the brain pattern that it gave me.
Yeah, something's up here. Yeah.
I've off my tits, mate. And I suddenly got the fear. I was like, what is going on here? No, you have to look after the ladies. One of them started texting furiously. And I was thinking, oh my God, these aren't Ethiopian textiles. Those people, these are prostitutes.
Yes,
and that's what it was. And I said to them, look, if you had said this at the very beginning, we'd be in a very different situation now. But you made me think like we were like new friends that were just going to hang out, And I thought that you thought I was, good company,
a charming,
all of that stuff.
Yes.
One of them's texting furiously. The other one is now putting all the latches on the door and standing in front of it.
While you're in an opiated state on the bed.
Put my shoes on, pulled out the aux cord, and said in no uncertain terms, move away from the door now. And I ran out of that building. My God, I ran out of that building. And then the next day was the very last 1975 show.
How'd it go? Fucking hell.
It was in a church. And
in Hong Kong. Let's kind of imagine 1975 in Hong Kong. It's quite incongruous.
Yeah, it was in a church. And Matthew used to smoke a lot on stage.
Still does.
Yeah, and they'd been told no smoking. And so I'd gone into the dressing room before the gig, and Matthew said to me, Clues, what do you reckon about this smoking thing? And I said, well, if the church needs rock and roll for its coffers, fuck them. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
If they need our rock and roll money,
Our culture.
yeah, then they shall have to put up with what happens on stage. Because what next? Siphoning through the lyrics. Do you know what I mean? If you're happy,
You put the 1975, you get the 1975.
fags and all. Exactly. Yeah.
How'd it go, Tom?
It was a that whole thing was a whirlwind. It was really, really hectic. Yeah, I think my bitterness towards that band, and I should deal with it really, because it's no one's.
This could be the opportunity to do it, Tom.
No one's but mine, really. Well, Matthew used to get me to wear a 1975 T-shirt, and he would distress it. And on one of the very early gigs I did with him, he said during soundcheck, "Oh, I'm so glad I've got a beautiful tech," and kind of bigged up my looks and all of that stuff. So then he'd have me wearing a fucking T-shirt every night, all cut off, and I was in quite good shape then, and they made loads and loads and loads and loads of money off the merch.
Yeah.
And I thought,
I brought some.
that's not it. That's not my job to be a moving clothes horse for someone that, and he can
Help flog his gear.
Yeah, and he thought I was hot as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think some of the bitterness comes from that. But then also he did a thing of, oh yeah, I'm bisexual, but I haven't had the experience. I mean, if there was a way of writing in, I would have done. I can't remember where it was said, but that night, the very last night, he was kissing everyone, and he made a fucking beeline for me, tongue straight down the throat. I don't mind. I'm not an anything. I'm just a geezer. If I need to kiss you away from me, I will. I'm for the ladies, but whatevs, I was as drunk as him,
Sure.
So yeah, that kind of irks me a bit, because it's like, come on, mate, am I not your first kiss? Do you know what I mean? Can we not point to that? Give yourself a try. That's my pick for that.
Thank you very much. That's my next question.
It's a beautiful song.
It's good.
And it addresses suicide, doesn't it?
It does. Young girl suicide. Yeah.
Which, is something that, in fact, yesterday was Scott Hutchinson from the Frightened Rabbit. It was his 7-year anniversary.
Someone you worked with as well? Yeah.
Yeah, I was his guy. I was fucking awful. And it wasn't a surprise, because he wrote the death on the first album, I think we need to... I didn't want to be weighed down with a bag, but there's a really great book written by someone called Tamsin Embleton, Mental Health and Touring, and it's a Bible. It's a Bible for how to, get along.
What are a few key points from that, Tom? Maybe now's a good time to share.
It's a really holistic book, so it addresses the people at home, your wife, your kids, whoever.
Sounds like you've had a few, strained relationships from selling your soul to the devil, Tom.
Twice divorced, yeah.
Can't be easy, man.
Diet,
this life isn't for everyone, is it?
Diet, drinking water, there are like some of the really basic things,
But people weren't doing that for fucking the best part of 30, 40 years, Tom.
I mean, I know some of the younger people that are coming into it. You were talking about what are the roots, and there's not really a sort of... You can go to those colleges now, like Lipper, and you can... But there's still not, as far as I know, there's still not really a backline tech course, We tend to be...
Well, I've done music technology at college. I tried, Tom.
Right.
But
we tend to be from kind of my age and up, we tend to be more pirates. Do you know what I mean? We're kind of like, I remember on a Maccabees tour, we had some young system tech guy who's not self-employed, so works for a company, and they're told, right, this is how you operate on a tour bus. These are the rules. You don't take pictures. Just general etiquette for touring. And this young guy walked onto the bus to see me open-handed slapping Sam Doyle, the drummer from the Maccabees.
Yeah, these rules, they're a bit loose. Yes, please.
Are we back in?
We're back in.
Yeah.
We never left, baby.
No, man. Absolute tragedy. Absolute tragedy. Had some incredible times with that man. I told him he looked beautiful when he sang. And he told me no one ever told him that. And he did, He was deep thinking, incredibly smart and incredibly funny. Tragic guy, We used to send stuff to each other, when we went out. And the last thing he sent me was a book of lost baby shoes. Because we'd had a conversation once about starting points for creativity. And I'd said something like, when you see a lost baby shoe, there's a whole story there. There's a whole life that you're never going to know about, And it was about 3 weeks before he offed himself. Got a little jiffy bag in the post, opened it, and it was this book, Lost Baby Shoes. The day that they announced that they found his body, I'd walked out of Walthamstow Tube, got a text as my phone came back. Yeah, they found him. Mm. I walked out of the station, that 30 seconds, and the first thing I saw was a fucking baby shoe. I cry all the time about Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah, miss him a lot. I've got 3 tattoos. In fact, my kid said this morning, "Oh, did you give up the tattoo thing for Scott?" And I said, "Well, I did 3." And then I just thought, if I have a good innings, I was doing 1 a year. I did 3, and then I thought that's a cool amount. So I've got make tiny changes down here.
Nice.
I have a 618, which is lovely because Scott came up with this whole thing that the crosses and the all of those weird sort of Russian-looking, Soviet-looking architecture and the 618, and people would be like, "Oh, I'm trying to work out the fucking let's break the code of the 618," and it's just the alphabet. 6 was F, 18 is R. So I got that tattooed here, and then I remembered that awful fascist group that was sort of National Front adjacent, but much more violent. They were called Combat 18. And the reason they were called 18 is the 1 is for A, and the 8 is F. H, sorry.
Yeah.
Adolf Hitler. Well, mine accidentally is fuck Adolf Hitler. Yeah, let's have it. It ties in, and then I have this on my knuckles. Find hope.
That's beautiful.
And that's one of Scott's more uplifting lyrics. Get
Yeah.
together now. Find hope. There's life before the one you already know.
Thanks for sharing this, Tom. This is really
man.
nice. And I appreciate the gear changes in your openness here. It's really nice, Tom. Thank you.
No worries at all. And love Scott. Frank Turner, actually, who I did one show with. I've got a little box that we're going to get to in a minute of bands that I've done like tiny amounts with.
Yeah.
But yeah, Frank wrote a song about Scott.
Which is called? We'll put it on the list.
I can't remember, but I will fire it
on the list.
I will
retrospectively.
Yeah, I will fire it over to you. But the basic premise of the song is that how Frank likes to remember Scott is as if when he jumped, a gust of wind caught him, and he's forever in that.
That's nice.
It's really
that's beautiful.
Really, really beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking Codaline. I don't think I put them on the list, did I?
Don't know much about Codaline.
Yeah,
late noughties, I'm
band.
guessing early 10s.
Yeah.
What's the vibe? Sort of very indie by numbers, or
yeah,
might be a bit unfair there.
Indie-ish. I don't really. I mean, it's not really my cup of tea, but I had good crack with them.
Here's a question, actually, Tom. Before you go further on that, something I wanted to ask you about is working for bands when you don't like the music.
Yeah, so that comes up a lot. That does.
Yeah. Sorry if that's a bit of a baseline question, but
not at all. And I'll bring a band in actually for this. And they
love a segue.
They really won't mind either. That they'll probably laugh. And I love them.
Maccabees are fucking shit, aren't they?
Yeah, shit houses. Chances. No, the Wombats, who I absolutely love.
Glad you said that because I was worried about this.
Yeah, no, I love and adore Wombats. I really do. I've never been a fan of the music at all. But what happens is you're rooting for them because they're such lovely people, and then suddenly the songs get into your blood, and you're like. Every night you're hearing the same ones.
Not made of stone, are you, Tom?
No, not at all. Not at all. And yeah, you end up like there's been a couple of bands that I've done right that I fucking hate, like can't stand. I did the Lightning Seeds. I'm gonna say there, done. I said it, and just had the worst time.
Right.
And I would save up farts, and when I did guitar changeovers in the middle of the gig. I would leave one. Sing through that. Fucko.
That's from Tom, baby. You got to get your victories where you can, Tom.
Exactly.
You know, you don't outgrow this shit.
Exactly. But so Wombats, yeah, and I still cheer them on, and we still chat.
Give me a song.
Tokyo.
Yeah, go on then.
Vampires and Dreams.
Oh, do you know what? I just thought I've got a good Wombat story, actually.
Go on.
I saw one of their early gigs in Camden. What's the one on the river? There's comedy stuff there as well.
Oh,
Dingwalls. So some at Dingwalls before the album came out, and it was very sterile, very boring, until they played Moving to New York, which was one of the only singles they released at that point.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, this dead crowd has gone apeshit.
Just went off.
Absolutely apeshit. Massive stage invasion. And I found myself by the drummer. And as the crowd's built and built on stage, I've fallen behind the drummer against the curtain. Little did I know, though, Tom, there was a couple of steps up.
Yeah.
So you're not just falling to the floor, you're falling 4, 5, 6 steps down.
Yeah.
And I've fallen onto a hard concrete floor.
Oh, Jesus.
Like half a, 6 steps down. It's a long way down when you're 6'5", Tom.
Yep.
And landed on my head and back and was like pretty out of it. And I've seen a hand appear through the curtain. You're right there, mate. It's a long way down, isn't it?
That was the lovely Dan, was it?
I don't know who it was, truth be told, but
right.
some godly figure appeared and pulled me back up to reality. And there's photos. There's photos of this summer, actually. I'll have to find the photos. Yeah. There's photos of me on stage at the Wombats.
I'd like to see that.
I want to talk Haim.
Haim.
Please.
Not much to say.
That surprises me.
Yeah, not much to say. Didn't do lots with them. They'd probably be in that little box of didn't do a tour.
Couple of shows.
Didn't do a tour. We did some radio and a couple of shows. Nice enough people. Huge Maccabees fans.
I always had a good feeling about them girls.
Yeah.
Always had a good feeling about them.
Yeah, in fact, we were on a Mumford's tour with Maccabees, Gentlemen of the Road, which, you know, for all the things I was saying about them earlier, it's a pretty righteous festival. They went to small towns in America where festivals don't normally go.
Right. And brought a band that probably don't get to play those kind of places.
Exactly, yeah. And they curated it as well, you know. So, and this is when Haim had just first come out and their parents were there at the gig. And I felt really bad for the drummer in Haim, the guy. Because
Chase, wasn't it his name?
I can't remember.
I don't know why I know that, but yeah.
I looked after Baby, I think, and the bass player. Anyway, their dad was talking to Sam Doyle about how much of a great drummer he was, having just seen them play next to their drummer who looked like wasn't getting the same level of praise.
He only thought of that first album, I think. He wasn't on the second or third album. Yeah.
Dad probably saw to that.
There's a few other names on here. Is there much to say about Goldfrapp, John Grant, or Cat Stevens, Tom?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things to say there. The John Grant thing, all right? I had bought an album of his for Hugo White of the Maccabees.
Who?
The Maccabees. And it was his birthday. Right? So I bought this album on a hard copy on CD. And then I'd gone home, and about an hour, I shit you not, after I got home, I got a phone call from a friend of mine. What are you doing tomorrow? Not working. Can you work? I'm on a tour with a band who don't have a tech, and we've got a show at the Roundhouse and feel like we should have someone. Yeah, I'm available. Who's the band? John Grant. What?
Funny you say that.
You what, mate?
It just so happens.
Big fan of John. I forget the Czars. That was his first band. They did an album called The Ugly People versus the Beautiful People. It's gorgeous album. So I was quite excited. And I knew the guitar player from an Icelandic singer who we'll talk about in a minute. And just went and did one show. And what's funny is I've actually, when I made my little notes here, John was the first one I put up. And even though I've got a whole bunch down here of bands that I've only did one show for, John feels like, I don't know, just...
There's a bigger connection then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking, what a writer. He's a polyglot. He's like five languages. He speaks fucking Russian.
Some people are so annoyingly clever, aren't they, Tom?
He speaks Russian, Icelandic,
fucking hell.
German.
Jesus.
Yeah, a linguistic superstar. And a funny guy and a great performer. But yeah, just the one show. He is a huge Goldfrapp fan. So not long after doing that one show with them, I was with Goldfrapp, and John was on some of the same bills. So it was really nice when we get to like catch up. But he'd always come over, where's Alison? Where's Alison? Where's Alison? Where's Alison? Like, he was in love with her in a way, you know.
Yeah.
And working with her was great. Loved it. absolutely loved it. And in fact, Charlie Jones, our bass player, he was an absolute legend. He was now in the Cult. My very last show, we went to Australia to just do one show, which is tiring.
That sounds a lot.
Yeah, it's not the one. Anyway, Charlie came up to me and he said, "Oh, Alison's just done something she's never done. She never talks about the crew, but she spent the whole journey down here lamenting the fact that you're going." And then she came in for sound check and she went, "Tom, why are you leaving us?" And I said, "Because you're your fucking mate. She's got more gigs than you." "What mate?" "Chrissy Hind." But I had a great time with Goldfrapp. We were once coming back from some American shows, and it was an early start to the airport, and the keyboard player had fucked it. And she was supposed to be in the car with Alison. So the tour manager said, "Well, you get in the car with me and Alison, and we'll remotely sort this." So we're waiting to check in, and I got bumped up because she's gold or whatever, you know. But she was saying to me, "Oh, Tom, you know, I feel so bad that you lot that do all the hard work, you know, you don't get this sort of luxury stuff that I get." And I said, "Listen, never think like that, ever. Because the only fucking reason we're here is because you wrote some fucking songs.
And you want to share them with the world."
That's what we do. We are there to prop up some songs. I had an argument with someone once, and I used provocative language. This is a code line, actually.
I've noticed.
It was the monitor guy or front of house. It was front of house guy. And he said, "Our job is to put the limitations on things for bands, you know, to tell them what can and can't be done." And I said, "It's bullshit, man." I said, "You know the House of Blues in Boston?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "It's got that fucking loading. It's horrendous. It's a big old goods lift at the back in a rat-infested car park. And there's like hundreds of steps to get up there if you don't want to use the thing. And there's a little sign that says it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll."
Fucking hell.
Anyway, Ted fucking Nugent did a gig in there, and he rode on stage on a buffalo.
On a buffalo?
And I said to this guy, "You're talking about limitations. Is that because you don't want the singer to go in front of the PA because that's going to be hard work for you to stop, you know, feedback and to make it be heard and all of that? Is that what you're really saying?" I said, "Because I think we should get," and this was code line.
You should facilitate their
I said, "We should.
ideas
I think
and
we
visions.
need 4 fucking buffalo or bison or whatever it was."
Well, look, I think that's a pretty good place to end things, Tom. I think we've just done it. So let's run through this set list and then let's go and get a pint.
Yeah, I'm going to have to add a couple more though.
Are we gone? Okay.
Cat Stevens. This is a lovely quick story. When I was doing biology GCSE in the very late 80s, I handed in some Cat Stevens lyrics as...
Yeah, you told me this. Yeah, this is well worth... Yeah, go on. This is class.
As my homework. "I don't want to work away doing just what they all say. Work hard, boy, you'll find one day you'll have a job like mine. Because I know for sure nobody should be that poor to say yes or sink low just because you happen to say so. You say so. You say so." Now, to 14-year-old me, that's like, yeah, I'm with that. Fuck them. Fuck the world. So that's what I handed in for my biology homework, because like my kid now, she's constantly moaning that she's forced to do subjects that she's pretty sure she won't be engaging with as an adult. Anyway, my biology teacher kept me behind. "Tom, you failed the assignment. Into my office, please." And then he said, "Right." And he closed the door. He said, "Don't say this to anyone, but there's something about that. No one's ever done that in my career as a teacher. And there's something about that kind of makes me think, you'll be all right. You'll be all right." 30 years later, I'm Cat Stevens stage manager.
We love it, Tom. We love to see it.
It's fucking great.
He always had the vision.
Isn't it? It's great. A couple more big shout outs. Seal. I just did a handful of shows covering effing good money. Really, really nice guy.
Yeah.
One of us. He is a one of us, 100%. Just making sure, because I don't want to miss anyone out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
sure. This is your baby. I get it.
Yeah.
This is your career.
This
is your life's work.
It's been my life. Emilie Sande. I had some absolutely great times with her.
Was that at her peak or was that...
No. It was bobbling along, you know. But I've had some lovely times with her.
Yeah.
During COVID, she got rid of...
She seems really nice.
She's great.
Yeah.
During COVID, she got rid of band, crew, Everyone. I got a phone call from the tour manager. M's sacking everyone off. But she wants to keep you.
Still got it,
I'm
Tom.
blowing my own trumpet, but fuck it. And we went and did a show in Monaco during lockdown, and I smoked a zoot on a private jet during Monaco. Can't lie about that.
It's good work if you can get it, Tom, isn't it?
I've never smoked in an airplane.
That's class.
And it was a fucking
That's
zoot.
class.
Quick scan through this then. Did a show with editors last year. Nice chaps.
Nice chaps.
Yep. I did a show with 30 Seconds to Mars.
Wow.
To cover for, they'd had lots of issues. That was mental. Did a couple of shows last year with Faithless. If you get a chance, go.
Oh, yeah.
Epic.
Yeah.
It's and the tribute that they have.
Yeah.
Is lots of
I'll bite your hand off for that.
And, absolutely amazing. So Lil Kim, I did one show.
Wow.
I mean, I can't put that on my CV. It was one show.
I'll let you have that.
But I was just asked to come. She had a gospel band from New York, and they'd never played with her, and it was all hired gear from London. And I had a brief conversation with her, which is pretty cool. I enjoyed it. I got hired by Razorlight. No rehearsals, straight into festivals. Okay. No notes. Ugh. Not feeling this. But fuck it, I needed the work. It was when I was doing the degree. Tom, Johnny's over from Paris. You can meet up. He's agreed to meet up at John Henry's.
Lucky you.
Go through the gear. Whoa, okay, great. So he comes in and he had an American photographer with him. And so she was snapping away and he was saying, oh, this is really cool. Like, people don't get to see this, behind the scenes stuff. And I was thinking, it's not really. It's just a bloke and another bloke looking at an amp. Do you know what I mean?
Over romanticizing, yeah.
But I kind of got on quite well with the photographer, and we were talking about prison theatre and just sort of the part of my degree which was looking at like social uses of theatre, the applied stuff. And we were talking about Tim Robbins, who's got a really brilliant program over in the States for prison theatre with masks and stuff. I could feel him not like it. He didn't like it. Anyway, we just kind of carried on, and then I played America on his rig. Don't know if he liked that or not. And then Van Morrison came up in conversation, and I said, fuck that guy. I said, he's made some incredible music, of course, but this shit that he did in lockdown with Clapton.
Pretty fucking cringe, wasn't it?
It was pretty bad. Johnny Burrell from Razorlight said to me, well, did you actually listen to it, though, or did you just sort of, hear everyone else slag it off?
Which is a good question.
Yeah, good, nice, solid question. And I said, I definitely listened to it. It's utter shit. I stand by it. It's awful. Two rich white guys complaining they can't get in their helicopters and go and be gods. Come on, leave it. 2 days later, I get a phone call. You're not doing the Razorlight gigs.
I imagine Johnny might have been involved in some way. Tom, is that what you're saying?
He didn't like me. And do you know what? That saved me so much bother.
Yeah,
and it was good.
yeah.
And it was good because I got a mate of mine on it who fitted the bill.
Cool.
So yeah. What else have we got on here? Once did Jules Holland years ago, and Antonia Castle, floor manager, wonderful woman, came up to me. Tom, how busy are you today? I said, busy-ish. Why are you asking? And we've got someone who hasn't got a tech with them. I just wondered if you could just sort of, be a pair of hands, tune the guitars and stuff. And I was like, yeah, who is it?
That's what I do.
Yeah, who is it? Bonnie Raitt. I shit you not. Oh, shit. Blues legend, country blues legend. Absolute. Ugh. So I got to meet Bonnie Raitt and tune her guitars, which was really cool. I did one show with London Grammar, which is amazing. And I do PJ Harvey's book stuff, which I would just like, maybe finish up by just saying she's a fucking national treasure. Only person to win the Mercury twice. And I might have to say one of the nicest people I've ever worked with. Just humble as fuck, but knows she's good. So there's a really beautiful line that she walks of like, there's confidence is just, it's
Carries herself well, didn't she?
But there's a tenderness with her as well. And, we had a little falling out and we fell straight back in, We had a little falling out about something. It wasn't an important thing. and she's been a real inspiration to my kid. And they met, and she did one of the nicest things. This is my last story, and then we'll go to the pub. We did a London show. So her poetry show, she reads for 20 minutes, and then she's interviewed for 20 minutes, and then she reads for 20 minutes. All right, and we've done quite a few of them. Same format. So I advance the thing, and then I'm the grown-up on the road, and it's me, her, and her stylist, who's a lovely guy, Todd. And we do trains and planes, or whatever, and it's very gentle and lovely and easy. And the show never starts after 8, and it's only 1 hour, so it's really lovely. And she would always walk on stage with a tote bag with her reading material, yeah? So we did the London show, and I said to my kid, and Frank Skinner was doing the interview on that day, so I said, go up to the dressing room, to my kid Chops. I said, knock on the door and give them their 15-minute call. She said, what do I do? I said, just knock on the door. When you get a yes, open up and say it's 15 minutes. Say, Polly, Frank, it's your 15-minute call. So she did, and then Polly said, Albertine, will you do me a favour? So I kind of had my parent ear on as well, you know. She said, would you just take this reading out onto the stage for me? It's the only time she ever did it. It was to involve my kid, to make my kid feel like she was part of the thing. Oh, what a fucking ledge.
That's really cute. Absolute
ledge. And she sent me a text a while ago saying, of my daughter, she's beautiful inside and out, and I'm very fond of her. You know. So to make connections with powerhouses like that.
National treasures.
Yeah, mate. It's, you know, it's not just paying the bills then. You know, it's something else.
Well, look.
Lord William of Han.
This has been fucking class, Tom.
You've had me in the house.
We could go on, but I genuinely have got a mate that's coming to meet us.
Also, edit this. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, you have given me some work to do. But let me tell you, it is going to be time well spent putting this madness together.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be great. And what we'll do, Tom, once you finish that album, we'll get you back on the podcast and we'll just discuss it
Hugo.
On the format type.
Come down with Hugo.
Well, obviously, I wanted to do that. This has been great.
Yeah, it's lovely, man.
And I can't wait to do it again. And I cannot wait to see you in Berlin, where I'll be watching the Maccabees in what? 4 weeks' time?
About a month, isn't it?
We're on.
Oh, honourable mention, Cat Burns.
Burns.
That's who I'm working with next. We've got one show in Brazil at the end of the month.
Anyone in Brazil listening? I've got at least one listener in Brazil,
and the song
actually.
Happier Without You by Cat Burns.
It's on the list. Cat Burns.
Love her.
Happier Without Ya. Well, look.
Closing the show.
This has been this album. I have been William Han. He has been Tom Clues, and this is an FU to the format. Thomas, thank you very much. Free Palestine.
All the way.
Equal pay for women. More dogs. More black.
More
Irish. Woo!